अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of Hafta. We are recording on the 26th of September at 4 in the afternoon. Joining us in the studio are our team here, Raman Kirpal.
Hello.
Manisha Pande.
Hello. And I was just thinking that just 3 months left to the year ending, and it was just yesterday that we went out reporting on general elections in April.
Yeah, dude, this year has
just
flown by.
But every year seems to fly off. Maybe it's a function of old age.
Maybe we're just having so much fun.
Either so much fun or we're getting closer to death.
I think it's the latter.
always.
We're getting closer to death.
Always the optimist, Jayashree, ahead of executive editor, promos and podcasts and long-form storytelling formats.
What is
and
the
other such
acronym?
things.
What is the acronym?
Thank you.
The acronym is...
EAPS.
It's not push.
Make in India. No,
EAPS is great. EAPS is great. I like
EAPS.
it.
I love EAPS, yeah.
Okay.
EAPS.
So
EAPS is good.
And also joining us on Zoom from Bangalore is Pooja Prasanna. Welcome, Pooja.
Hello.
She is the head of reporting, editorial head reporting at the News Minute, our very own partner organization. And right now you are in Bangalore, right?
Yes, mostly in Bangalore.
Okay.
And
very
also
good.
the host of a highly popular show.
Yes.
Let me explain.
Which, please,
Highly popular, okay.
the link is in the show notes below. Please do watch it.
Yeah, this week I'm talking about the laddu episode, the very confusing laddu episode. So yeah, we've
Yeah.
tried to make sense of the chaos.
Great.
But, because India is also the diabetic capital of the world, if you could just throw in 2 minutes of how it also makes your sugar spike, it may actually...
Okay, I am sorry, I can't do that. I absolutely love the laddu, so I'm all for
Okay,
it.
I said
I don't
because-
care what it has.
Because then it could be news plus health tips, you see? Then you could be a news health influencer. But anyway, right now we'll just go with the news angle. So thank you for joining us, and also joining us later in the podcast once we have discussed the laddu controversy that Pooja will tell us about, and of course the High Court ruling, right, in the
Yes,
case
yeah.
of Siddaramaiah's case. Then Joyojeet Pal will be joining us. He is Associate Professor at the University of Michigan's School of Information. He is in fact writing a series for Newslaundry on the US election. He'll be joining us when it is a slightly more respectable time for him to wake up in Michigan and giving us a little update about what's happening in the US election. Now, before we get into the headlines, just want to tell you that our team from Israel/Gaza is back. Our wonderful producer Aryan, researcher Supriya, and Srinivasan Jain spent a week there. We have 4 reports,
Three
reports that will
episodes.
come out. And this has been funded entirely by you. As I'm recording this, let me just check, are we still 1 lakh rupees short? If we are, you can please top that up. Yes, we are still just about 1 lakh rupees short. So please top that up. Here's the QR code. It'll stay on the screen for a while. If you'd rather go through a link, there's a link in the show notes below. And now we've started another Sena project where he will go to the US with our very own producer of Hafta, Priyali. We will get stories that the Western media will not bring you because there are many Indian angles to this election across party lines. And there are a lot of lobby groups in the US that don't get the kind of hype that the Jewish lobby groups do or the African American lobby groups do. But the AI lobby groups, that's not artificial intelligence. That is
American Indian.
American Indian,
Yeah.
mitron. That angle only you will get on Newslaundry. So please do contribute to that also. Now the QR code is shifted. This QR code is for the US Sena. So do contribute so we can get you some good non-sponsored ad-free journalism,
Yes.
which is very important, as we pointed out to Mr. Abhay Chautala on Twitter, because while our wonderful reporter Basant, who is traveling on money that you guys have contributed, because we don't take ads from Sarkari channels or any channel, he stood and asked Mr. Abhay Chautala the following question.
गांव में मैं घूम रहा हूं तो एक बात लोगों के बीच है कि आपका और बीजेपी का एक अनकहा गठबंधन है, क्योंकि
कहाँ से आए आप?
मैं दिल्ली से हूं।
आप वापिस जाएं दिल्ली में, वो ज़्यादा अच्छा रहेगा।
सिरसा में बीजेपी
मैं पूछ रहा हूँ कि मैं ज़्यादा अच्छा ये रहेगा कि आप वापिस जाएं दिल्ली में। मुझे लगता है कांग्रेस ने पेड़ बना करके आपको भेजा है।
हाँ जी, चौटाला साहब, मैं थोड़ा सोचा मैं आपको ज़रा क्लैरिफाई कर दूं। हम दिल्ली में हैं और हरियाणा में घूमेंगे, उसके ना आपके परमिशन की ज़रूरत है ना किसी और की, स्वतंत्र देश है ना। और दूसरा, आप शायद कंफ्यूज हो रहे होंगे, आप शायद टीवी बहुत देखते हैं, कि हर जगह ना ये सरकारी एड्स, कई बार आपकी पार्टी के भी होते होंगे, मोदी जी के तो होते ही हैं, दिल्ली में तो एलजी के आने से पहले आपके बहुत एड्स थे, उन्होंने वो पत्ता काट दिया एलजी का। सिद्धारमैया के इतने एड्स होते हैं, आप कंफ्यूज है ना, बहुत सी मीडिया ना उन एड से चलती हैं, न्यूज़लॉन्ड्री में से एक नहीं है। तो हम आपकी जो सजेशन है, हम वापस दिल्ली चल रहे हैं, थैंक यू, वो हमने सजेशन कंसिडर करके थोड़ी साइड में रख दी। हमारी सजेशन है कि आप अपने मित्रों को बोले कि जो मीडिया आप सरकारी एड से चलाते हैं ना, उससे किसी का फ़ायदा नहीं है। तो वो हमारी थोड़ी सजेशन है, वो भी आप थोड़ा आगे बढ़ा दीजिएगा। मीनवाइल हमारे दर्शकों से हमारा निवेदन है, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. And we do not take money from either corporations or governments for ads, because we depend on you. QR codes are there, links are there.
He can give personal ads, but not sarkari ads, because that is our money
That is our money.
at the end of the day.
True.
Okay, Chautala Saab, have a good election. And I hope you are in some training for humility, because politics is all about showing a little bit of humility. Now, before we get into the meat of the episode, one major announcement. It is World Podcast Day on the 30th September. Did you know there was a podcast day?
No, I had
No.
no idea.
Every day is podcast day.
For us. But
Podcasters Day.
if there could be a day for whatever, fathers, mothers, friends, enemies, ex-wives, ex-husbands, whatever, there has to be a
There's
podcast
no
day.
World Ex-Husband Day or Ex-Wife Day. Please.
There isn't?
No.
I thought
What a
there-
bad example.
World X Day.
So, but yeah, it's World Podcast Day. So, in celebration of World Podcast Day, all our podcasts, even the ones that are normally behind the paywall, will be free this week. So this is a good time for you to share it with others, with your friends, family. They'll get to see the whole thing, and it may, just might, trigger some of them to subscribe and pay to keep news free. We hope you can do that for us. We'll be very grateful. Right. So let's get the headlines out of the way. Jayashree?
Yes, it's been a busy week. The Prime Minister was in America for a 3-day visit, which was marked by his meeting with President Joe Biden and the Quad, a roundtable with tech CEOs, a speech at the UN, and an address to NRIs, where he said American Indian spirit is the new AI.
AI का मतलब है आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, लेकिन मैं मानता हूं कि AI का मतलब है अमेरिकन इंडियन, अमेरिका इंडिया, ये स्पिरिट है।
Yeah, enough baat. Someone said someone needs to American Indian is the Indian American. What's the difference? Sorry.
Yeah.
Indian
One of
Americans.
them- yeah, that's a Native American. So he should be saying Indian Americans.
Yeah,
but-
so American Indian, someone said, someone has to tell him that that's actually the Native Americans. So,
It's the new IA.
Didn't he say anything about Trump?
no, sir, he pretended he doesn't exist.
In Karnataka, in a setback to Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, the High Court has upheld sanctions granted by the governor to prosecute him in the alleged Mysore Urban Development Authority scam. A special court has also ordered a Lokayukta police probe.
Right.
In the Bombay High Court has struck down the 2023 amendments to the IT rules that permit the central government to fact-check news about itself on social media platforms.
Yay! That is very good news for us.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Kunal Kamra. Congratulations, Apar Gupta and the entire team at Internet Freedom Foundation and all the lawyers who worked so hard for it. In fact, Kunal has put a link to all the wonderful lawyers who contributed to this.
But apparently the government is going to, they will move Supreme Court now over this
Yeah,
issue.
that's fine.
We take our wins where we get them.
Yep.
Yogi Adityanath has directed eateries in Uttar Pradesh to prominently display names and addresses of their operators and managers. The Congress government in Himachal Pradesh has also issued a similar order, but it's stressing that it was not based on the BJP's playbook.
Mm.
So what happens
problem-
with these names? If there's some hygiene issue or some check that hasn't happened, you can just call up the owner.
No. Under the Food
Like what?
Security Act,
Mm.
they can do that. Okay, but the problem is the police have no locus standi over here. Only FSA
And it's
team,
inspection.
they are the ones who can inspect. But the fear is, with these names on display,
You know,
they're
who's a
going to play
Muslim.
communal part.
Right.
The police may start targeting, these.
So maybe a shopkeepers association should say that now there should also be, since it's about what we eat and hygiene, so it doesn't matter whether it's sold off the counter or we buy it, every edible that we buy should have who owns that company. let's
And
let's
who has-
complicate
and
it
who
so
has-
much.
And who has given the ingredients?
Yeah, like pan
Ghee
parag
kya-
also. This
ghee
pan
kahan se
parag
aaya?
is
Ghee
who all
kahan se aaya agar contamination
ghee.
होती
Where's the ghee from? They should just
Palm oil.
see. The thing is that one thing we've learned is if someone goes slightly insane, you should take it to full insanity, cause chaos. Then they'll say, actually forget it. Let's not do this.
No, I think the real danger is the police
Yeah.
Yeah.
targeting, the
Mm.
Muslims.
Crazy,
Right.
yaar.
So in Delhi, AAP's Atishi, who took oath as new chief minister, has come under fire for leaving Kejriwal's chair at the secretariat vacant for his return.
Why she come under fire? It was a bit comical, but why she come under fire for this?
But when OPS did this for Jayalalitha when she was in jail, like everyone very rightly ridiculed him for it. So I think she should
I mean,
also be
she should be
ridiculed
ridiculed,
widely.
but I don't
Means,
understand why she's under fire.
No, but just
No, ridicule kya
Like
yaar, it's
she did
very
seem a
embarrassing.
bit ridiculous.
and also
Yeah,
also the Marxist Leninist kind of.
Marlena.
But I'm just wondering. But it did make me wonder that as and when I'm arrested and taken away, either by Mr. Avish Chautala or by the IT or ED, whoever decides to raid us next. So obviously my
Your-
office will be empty.
Your chair is.
Will you,
do a video.
Manisha, put a stool next to
Next week.
or will you occupy my chair? So please, if you have to get
अभी हम
another
दोबारा
chair,
इंतजार करेंगे.
हमारा budget कम है, don't buy another chair. Even if you have to just change the cover, so symbolically it's not the same chair. But budget should remain top of mind.
That is right.
No more chairs.
That
Each,
you have taught us.
each chair is 3,000 odd rupees. So,
You have taught us.
so anyway, just checking. what you have a take on that, Jayashree?
I have no takes on this at all. I think you children have covered it. Okay,
no.
so
They're
in
so happy to see so many Bharats. in
Bharat,
Aam
so
Aadmi
many
Party.
Bharats.
Sab Bharat. मैं भी Bharat.
Everybody is dying for Rama. मैं भी Bharat, मैं भी Bharat.
That's a good t-shirt
when-
idea.
When they are
Maybe
saying,
Bharat.
when they are saying maybe this Bharat thingy, 3 of AAP, municipal councillors, they have
Got to
shifted
BJP, right?
to
Yeah. Before the
BJP.
MCD, they have to make that.
the municipal that mayor election is happening either today or tomorrow, I think.
Right.
Right. So in Maharashtra, Akshay Shinde, who was accused of sexually assaulting 2 minors at a school, was shot dead by the police on Monday. They alleged that he snatched a police gun and opened fire. The Bombay High Court has said a probe into his killing should be carried out in a fair and impartial manner.
There were
And the
huge
Bombay High
protests
Court,
after that.
And the Bombay High Court did say that this is, they did express their kind of disbelief at the story of the police. They said, like, what happened to the other 2 bullets?
Yeah.
Like one.
Yeah.
But you see this all the time. No, I think in the last 2 months or something in Tamil Nadu, there have been 3 encounters. And I think in Chennai alone, there have been 14 in the last 5 years. So I think just this morning in the Times of India, I saw this story about this gangster who's turned himself in because he's like, I'm going to be killed in an encounter. So I'd rather go to jail first. So, but we see these stories all the time and we sort of laugh about it, but there is no scrutiny at all. And I feel
UP is notorious for
The
this.
High Court has
Yeah.
said that your story is not believable, so you better
Yeah.
just tell how it happened.
Right. But I think some head has to roll. I mean,
Yeah.
unless a cop is tried for murder, it won't stop. Like, you had films like Ab Tak Chappan and all made
Ah.
kind of,
Glorifying
glorifying
this.
encounters, right?
no, that Hyderabad encounter, people celebrated it. No,
Yeah.
when they
People
killed those-
showered him
was
with
it 4 people or
flowers.
5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
No,
he was
5 people, and
5.
the public, in fact, on top of a flyover. I remember the optics also.
Yeah.
They lined on both sides and they were showering them with rose petals and what have you. So I think they also think they can get away, right? That's the whole point. They think
Yeah.
that public
And some
sentiment is
prominent
behind
news
them.
anchors said, I don't care about the law.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter what is the law.
Sounds familiar.
No, they are getting away. I mean, I think the judiciary has to
Yeah, they have
chip
to.
in. I mean, they are getting
I mean,
out.
someone has to go to jail for murder. Otherwise, it won't
No,
stop.
but they have so much support. I remember at the time, this was in Hyderabad, right? So we went around asking other police commissioners what they think. And I'd gone to the police commissioner in Bengaluru at the time. And he just jumped at and he said, it's wonderful. I congratulate my colleagues. We should follow this example, the public. So they have so much support from everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the biggest
Absolutely
issue.
Police
dangerous.
is trigger happy.
Meanwhile, the most that it was last year, right? Atik's shooting.
Yeah. On air.
Televised. Whatever happened to those two people?
Yeah, that
what's the
it's a good
story?
follow-up story. That would be a good one.
Right. So BJP MP Kangana Ranaut has called to reinstate the 3 farm laws. The BJP has quickly dismissed it, saying her remarks are
What-
baseless
what
and
is she
illogical,
doing, yeah?
and her statement damages Modi's good work.
And meanwhile, today there's a piece in the Indian Express
Ah.
which says that her movie is actually very good.
Very
People
good,
who've
yeah.
reviewed it have said it's even the Congress couldn't have made such a good movie on emergency.
Yeah.
See, now I
So
think...
basically, she's just now like,
No, I think
my movie
they are
out.
holding back this movie because of the elections.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a positive image
yeah,
of...
it
No,
will
it
lead
clearly
to
is.
Congress's
yeah,
So they'll have to also wait for Maharashtra
revival.
then.
they will have to wait for more.
Yeah.
बिचारी यार
And she
मुश्किल से अच्छी
doesn't have
मूवी
money.
बनाई है और उसको
Kangana, see what all that looks very nice and attractive from the outside. You jump into politics, it's
She gave one statement today or yesterday, saying,
Yeah.
I need to remember I'm not just a film star. I'm now a politician.
but now it's
or
happened
something.
too many times for her to just casually forget every
Yeah.
time. And Gaurav Bhatia, I think, came twice to clarify.
yeah.
Crazy.
Do you guys think somehow Congress managed to get to her?
To Kangana?
Get to her in
and
what
they're
sense?
using her.
I love a
against
conspiracy
BJP.
theory.
Oh, very nice. Nicely thought.
Imagine.
Yeah.
No?
No, that the ferocity with which she and Rahul go at each other. Kind
That is the whole game, right?
नहीं, but
That
Rahul
is
तो ना
the
somebody from
game.
Haryana Congress can tell her कि यार आपके
they are
साथ
not
क्या बुरा
such
हो रहा है.
good actors, neither of them.
Come on, you can just let something like this go on for a few days. We could use more entertainment.
You heard it here first, guys.
First,
If
yes.
this ever happens. Right. So, in an affidavit to the National Green Tribunal, the Central Pollution Control Board has said half its sanctioned posts in states and union territories lie vacant. So, that is over 5,600 posts across 11,500 seats.
And in a related story, well, not story isn't this, but our colleague Shiv Narayan's story, which is behind the paywall also, or is it outside the paywall?
Yeah, outside the paywall.
It's outside the paywall. So even those of you who are not paying, who I used to call Mufat Khors in my more harsh days, and many of you have said I should be more polite on Hafta, so I will not call you Mufat Khors. I'll call you people who are not paying for news. Don't have to feel guilty about it. It's fine. We can always, even like whining about it is a contribution to the world, of course, I'm sure. But those of you who are paying, you can be thanked by those who are not for this outside the paywall story on an Adani project that has been greenlit in spite of his last project, a red flag being raised by the NGT.
NGT and Ministry of Environment gave the clearance again.
Clearance. So, yeah, the story's link is in the show notes.
Right. In Kerala, after the Hema Committee findings, 2 actors were arrested in separate race cases. One was actor and CPIM MLA Mukesh. The other was actor Iduvela Babu. However, they were both released since they'd already secured anticipatory bail. Simultaneously, actor Siddiq has moved the High Court for anticipatory bail in another rape case, but it was rejected. He's now moved the Supreme Court and is, I think, presently on the run.
Okay.
Chess history has been made for India. India's chess masters won team gold medals in both men's and women's competitions at the 45th International Chess Olympiad in Budapest. They also won 4 individual gold medals.
Yay.
So, India's
Yay.
like become the new Russia as far as chess is concerned, huh? We
Yeah.
probably have the most grandmasters, I'm guessing.
Well, we all know nothing about chess, but we will celebrate.
One thing I know about chess is that the Chess Association of Russia, for the longest time, was a political tool for them to carry out all sorts of other things, which is why
It's why the chess clubs in Chennai and all were set up by the Soviets way back in the day and all. But it's sort of
acha,
planted the seeds of our entire chess journey.
Wow.
Mm.
I didn't know that.
There was a very good story. Let me look for it. Anyway, in other news, Kiran Rao's directorial debut, Lapatta Ladies, was chosen as India's official submission to the
To the
97th Oscars in the
Oscars.
Best Foreign Language Film category. And I think everyone saw that letter that the jury wrote.
Ah,
About
that
it.
letter all feminists have had some objection to it. It was very,
I mean, I didn't read it. but-
very
No, it said,
patronizing.
the first
patronizing.
line said, Indian women are a strange mix of submission and dominance. And then, so watch this movie.
The
It's
movie
like some
depicts,
sweet uncle has written it.
Oh, no, but also I think the entire selection committee is full of men. So there are no women on it at all.
There's a very
Somebody
good
said
article
that
in
this is the
Express
actual Lapata
yesterday.
ladies. Then.
Yeah.
Very good article in Express.
So just
yesterday.
quick poll. I've seen the film and I quite enjoyed the film, but how many people here think it is like Oscar nomination material?
I haven't
No,
seen it.
In fact, I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was too preachy and it was too obvious, parts of it. Like that whole organic farming lecture.
Hmm.
Then the women friendship thing. It was just, to me, it wasn't subtle.
Yeah.
It's not Oscars for me.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
really
it was
surprised.
more like a caricature.
Yeah, a lot of it was too caricaturized. Like
Yeah.
too, like this is how rural India is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a competently made film and kept my interest in some, performances and some little
The
quirks.
performances were great.
And some quirks are very nicely
Yeah.
done, just how people travel.
There was a flow.
But it was, I mean, when I said Oscar, I was like, okay, wow, that I was surprised.
I don't know about the other 28
But then last year, I
entries.
don't know what.
There were
we'll have-
29 entries. So we don't know what.
Apparently, one of
what
these,
was
Savarkar was also one of the entries, Randeep who does, I think.
So, tell.
So,
Yeah, then I'd vote
I'm
for
sure
that.
I'm sure we've had better cinema in other languages. Like, so this Hindi movie domination also
Yeah.
must end
Yeah.
at the Oscars.
No,
I'm
here-
pretty sure we've had like better
No, I'm
movies.
sure.
Here also,
in
I
other
think
languages.
you have to make an entry. So there were 29 entries.
mm,
And each entry, I think you pay about 1.25 lakh rupees so that you are a serious
right,
contender.
contender.
So I don't know what were the other 28 entries.
Also, I'm
Right,
surprised
and-
that the
sorry,
government,
go
I
on.
mean, given Kiran Rao's, Amir Khan is still trolled for that 2015 statement, I think, was
Oh,
it?
2015.
Something for the government to also back this.
But maybe they're
Things-
becoming less hostile. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right, and the final headline is Israeli airstrikes in South Lebanon killed 558 and injured over 1,800
My
people.
God.
More than 90 women and children are amongst the dead.
Yeah, it's just not stopping. In fact,
This is
Re-
alarming to see this unfold is just.
my recommendation is to do with this today.
Yeah.
But also on that note, on the 30th of September, our first of the series from
Yeah.
Gaza, Israel will go out with Srinivasan Jain, which will be in the evening. It will go out or in
Yeah,
the morning?
8 o'clock.
Evening.
Prime time.
8
on
o'clock,
Monday.
so check that out, please. So, with another quick appeal, pay to keep news free, the News Minute and Newslaundry joint subscription, दो का मजा एक subscription के साथ, two of the most credible and the two most independent news platforms in the country who depend on you for sustenance. Do contribute. QR code, link, everything is there. Do your bit, share with your friends, relatives. This Hafta is going to be free, so you can share this also with your friends and relatives to make sure people get introduced to what we do and they can contribute so we can make the advertiser completely irrelevant as far as news is concerned. So Pooja, now the floor is yours. Two things you could please tell us. Actually, we were supposed to discuss the court ruling
MUDA scam.
But I'd just like to know a little bit, give us a preview of the laddu explainer that you're doing, because I did see one report, which was Palki's on first post, that
Yeah.
this, it's a little creative interpretation that this report claims that the stuff used in the laddu is beef fat or whatever it is. It says A, the sample taken were from 3 of the rejected containers. A total of 7 or 10 containers given were rejected. And even the report doesn't conclusively say what you had said last time.
Jayashree had said that.
But yeah,
She elaborated.
so
on it.
the S value or whatever it is. So yeah, maybe you can give us a little bit on that before you tell us what's happening politically in your state.
Yeah, but I did watch that Palki video and I just read through the comments we were discussing here. It was amusing to see how people, her absolute admirers, were very disappointed with the take. And they said, we didn't expect this from you and all of that. Because she took a very clear stand. She said there's no animal fat. And clearly that's not what they went to her for.
Expected.
But yeah, that report is fairly inconclusive. I think what most people did is, it's very technical, right? Most of the reporters who put it out had not even read even one part of it. So they just put it out, and that's what people on the other side were counting on, that people have no idea what they're talking about and they can push whatever narrative they want. But two things very quickly. One, the TTD has said that they have not used that ghee at all. It was tested but rejected because it didn't meet the food safety standards. So that is one part of it. But even if you do look at the report, it does not say conclusively that animal fat was used. It is a possibility, but it's just that much. But it's interesting to see the kind of remarks that you've seen. Just an aside, both Naidu and Pawan Kalyan, who are now the chief protectors of Hinduism, are they both they were allies of the left party for a long, long time. So how their politics has come from far left to
But
far
also
right.
the thing
But,
is that everyone in India believes this, that there's beef fat in. Like if you talk to a regular person now, that's a sad thing, no, because everyone ran with that news, and now an average person believes that yes, it
That
was
didn't
condemned.
dent the laddu
No one's
sales.
going to get into this.
But yeah, exactly. The sales are still on.
4
And,
lakh
I was just
laddus
having
in a
this-
day.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with some old people in the family. My grandfather's 94, and Tirupati laddu is like a staple in most South Indian households, right? He didn't seem to care. He said, I don't care what's in it. Maybe that's what's making it tasty, so bring some more. So that was a silver lining for me, that people don't seem to care too much.
But this Jagan Mohan Reddy is now holding some big elaborate function, no? Some forgiveness thing because Naidu has committed a sin, so he's holding some ceremony at Tirupati,
So that was done 2 days ago.
That's so funny.
Cleansing thing was done in the morning. Yeah, that was done. Pawan Kalyan called for it. So Jagan's also visiting on Saturday, so we have to see what drama unfolds, because now they're saying give an undertaking that you do believe in the god, otherwise you can't visit and all of that. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Jagan is holding a forgiveness thing for Naidu.
I think Jagan Mohan Reddy said that Naidu has committed a sin by making these allegations against his government or something, right? And so therefore he's going to the sanctum. But also he says the sanctum will be as part of some, to counter whatever Naidu is saying about him, if I'm correct.
But some
And
sort
he's
of a
Christian,
face-off
right?
on
Yeah.
Saturday.
So now, after this cleansing ritual and all, is it politically it's losing steam, or is it still a big issue?
It is still quite a big issue because there are statements coming thick and fast every day, right? And like I said, Saturday is when Jagan is going. So there's the BJP chief, she challenged him saying that you cannot enter without giving an undertaking.
What undertaking?
So, that he believes in the Lord and
Because
all of that. But
he's born to a
he's
Christian family,
yeah,
right?
He's,
So this is
he's a
the-
devout Christian.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Nice.
But both his father and Jagan, they've gone multiple times. When he was the chief minister, every other month he'd be there for some puja or the other. So, yeah.
Has
Suddenly
anyone done
people-
a second test though? Like a second round of tests of this thing? Or are we still going by what that original
that-
the Gujarat laboratory.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going by that. We're going by that.
And do we know any story why it landed in the lab? What was the doubt? How it began?
Because now apparently others are also sending their prasadam. Other temples also.
No, so apparently a lot of, this is a genuine concern. Many devotees have been saying the quality is not the same, the taste is not the same. And they do conduct these tests regularly. So Naidu says it was part of that. As soon as we came to power, we wanted to make sure that we keep up the standards and all of that. They sent it to Gujarat. There were also questions asked about why Gujarat. So apparently the lab there is the best to test all this, and it was just that and nothing more. But interestingly, like you said, ripple effect across the states, right? Karnataka jumped, nobody asked, but they said, all temples here have to use Nandini ghee. Nandini is the cooperative, the milk cooperative society here. So they said you have to compulsorily use Nandini ghee and nothing else. You can't use any other products and this and that. So yeah, I think we can see some ripple effects in other states also going forward.
So, Gujarat may be the best things to test this, but Punjab is the best for sterone. For testosterone.
But still, it's all just one sample, right? That's the problem. Did you just...
I just made an uncle joke. See, no one fell.
I like that Pooja just ignored it.
No one fell for the line. And I said, Punjab is the best for sterone. Someone would say, what is sterone? I said, for testosterone. but each time we do this podcast, Jayashree's face is, when can I hang out with adults again? No, but
I didn't expect this turn. I would say.
no, but on this the testing thing, I was flipping channels. I think this peaked about 3 or 4 days ago when this whole, it was in the morning bulletins, every channel was running this. So 601 on Tata Sky is NDTV, 604 is Times, India Today, 631 is CNN. So I just keep flipping those when I'm supposed to be doing yoga. So clearly my mind is not as free of stress.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to my mind was when I flipped to CNN, the primetime debate was that are dogs and cats being eaten in
By
whatever.
Haitians, yeah.
Yeah, by
Oh,
Haitians.
yeah.
Right. And no geese are being the pawn, which is complete. I mean, it is. And on the Indian channel, it was laddu, does it contain? I was like, dude, that cliche you hear whenever there is Indo-US summit, the largest democracy and the oldest democracy, we are natural allies. I was like, dude, we are also natural allies as far as the news media is concerned. Like, वहाँ पर ये election चल रहा है and this is what they are discussing, और यहाँ पर this is what we are discussing. And when there's so many, it was just, I think, a real...
But it was Network 18, right? They had this, they did the testing, they got some supposed scientists and they did some live testing of some food products.
Was that scientist Dr. Anand? No.
I didn't see. They just had a lab coat. I couldn't even read what was on the
But
coat.
that's,
So
listen, just because you see someone...
An ad for toothpaste will have a man wearing a coat.
Wearing a lab
He's a
coat.
dentist.
Yeah,
So
just
it's like-
because you see someone wearing a lab coat on news doesn't mean
Yeah.
they're testing anything. They could just be acting.
Whenever India Today covers the war, they have commandos there. Because I've seen those guys in the commando jackets.
Commando jacket with like toy guns.
So are those commandos?
Even that anchor.
Commando Gaurav
Yeah,
Sawant.
what
How
is
can
his
you even
name?
question?
Are you telling me Gaurav Sawant is not a commando?
No, his father
Dude,
was.
now I have lost faith. Sorry, I stopped watching news. I thought he was a commando.
But this had some purple color liquid in a beaker, and they were putting things in it. It just made my morning.
Oh, nice. So, okay, so that is as far as the laddu controversy is concerned. Now, how big of a deal is the
MUDA
Siddaramaiah's, conviction or whatever, the green light to the prosecution, sanction for the prosecution being
Yes,
upheld?
Yes.
And does this make, sorry, the other gentleman who always looks sleepy,
That's pretty much anybody.
no, yeah,
DK Shivakumar.
DK Shivkumar.
DK Kumar looks sleepy.
No, but he does. He's got something about his eyes.
Does
that
he look
always a
sleepy?
bit-
He looks like
wow.
he's
Droopy.
sleeping. He doesn't even look like he's
He's
fully
just got
awake.
droopy eyes.
No,
He
he's...
has droopy eyes, yeah.
He's
but,
been described as many things, but this is a first.
no,
Yeah.
but so does it is it significant enough for him to start now saying that, okay, my turn, or no?
So, I mean, it'll be ironic if Siddaramaiah steps down on charges of corruption and he's replaced by DK Shivakumar. So
Right. Oh, yeah, that would be like
quite
dramatic.
funny. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, there is a lot of clamor. Yesterday, in fact, Santosh Hegde, former Lokayukta, also came out and said that it's not proper for Siddaramaiah to continue. He should step down on grounds of propriety. Why that also is relevant is about 13 years ago when this happened last time, when Yediyurappa was forced to step down. It was Santosh Hegde's report on illegal mining that kind of compelled Yediyurappa to step down. So it's like, and it was then Siddaramaiah who was demanding that he no longer has the moral ground, right? I mean,
Right.
you know the lines.
So it's exactly the same
So
thing,
life
same
has come on
agency.
full
yeah.
circle, yeah.
And the allegation is that he caused Exchequer a loss of some over 500 crore in allocation of land to his friend.
So this is basically his family, his brother-in-law bought 3.2 acres of land in Mysore, which is his hometown. 2010, he gifted that land to Siddaramaiah's wife, Parvati. Then over the years, MUDA, which is your urban body in Mysore, the allegation is that they encroached the land and they made plots out of it and they sold it. Right. Now, years later, they compensated. Usually compensation happens, either you give money or you give land elsewhere, right? Equal amount of land. So the family, Siddaramaiah's wife, has gotten 14 to 15 plots in a very posh area in Mysore. Yeah. So now the opposition's allegation is that you made this entire thing happen so that you get land there. It's not possible that you didn't know that MUDA is encroaching and taking over that.
Yeah, but the
land.
Indian
You
Express
waited for
claims
all
that
of
the
this.
market value that the government has actually incurred for equivalent land given to them is 536 crores or something of this
For the
sort.
entire thing, yeah. So now Siddaramaiah is saying, you give me 50 to 62 crores. I'll give back the land. I don't care. This is the amount that you owe my wife in compensation for the land. Either give back the money or we keep the land. Just because I'm the chief minister, can we not be compensated? That's their version.
Right.
Now, the opposition says that entire scam is some 5,000, 6,000 crores.
Okay.
All the plots and all of it. But yeah, it does politically. It's getting interesting because yesterday, in fact, they also there's a special court that looks at cases filed against MPs, MLAs, former. They said that go ahead and file the FIR. So Siddaramaiah's party, his wife's party, several members of MUDA, they've all been booked. So it looks quite serious right now.
Do we have any ground story comparing the the plots that she had and MUDA had taken it back? I mean, clandestinely they sold them off. So did anyone do a ground story comparing the two plots? I mean, the in terms of how posh those plots, earlier plots were. The comparison.
No, they were
between the two?
agricultural land before. So, I mean, there's no comparison in that sense. We don't have a ground report. But Anisha, my colleague, she heads a Karnataka bureau. She did speak to people in Mysore, including people from whom the land was bought, other people who bought land in that area. So when it was bought, it was just agricultural land. So if you're comparing what was taken over and where they got the land, definitely the second place where those 16 sites are, that is much more posher. And the value is also much more of the site there.
And how can they give a residential plot or commercial plot when
agricultural
their plots
land.
were agricultural
I think that is what the whole.
So that's where the denotification happened, right? So they denotified it to, which was meant for agricultural use. They denotified it and made it for residential use.
Saying that purposely did it because then the compensation was so the Lokayukt clearly in Karnataka works because there's several states where there was no Lokayukt, right, for the longest time.
Yeah, Karnataka has had a good tradition, but I won't say it is as efficient as it's made to be. Santosh Hegde, when he was there, in fact, that was probably when it was in the news the most, and we literally used to live outside his house, hoping that he'll say something and we'll cover it. But yeah, it does work a little more efficiently than in the other states. Now, the Lokayukta police have to probe. So how free will it be is the question, because earlier it was under ACB and ACB was under the government. Now, Lokayukta
That's Anti-Corruption Bureau.
Anti-Corruption Bureau. So there have been steps taken to dilute it, but it's still better than most states, I'd say.
So, are we in an age politically, and even the news cycle and when it comes to the electorate, where we can expect resignations? Like, what is the last resignation that we really got?
For corruption charges?
For any charge. I mean, not just corruption. I think, at least for me, a corruption charge is less significant than a charge of, communal action. Like all the charges that were framed by the Delhi police on quote-unquote rioters, where the courts have said, I think we did that long report, right, where they've copy-pasted FIRs.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that would lead to that you've completely compromised the law and order machinery, but there were no resignations. I mean, when was the last time anyone resigned? So, does anyone
Train
here
accidents
think?
used to be like famous. At least the offer would be made.
Yes.
The railway minister would say that.
Shastri resigned after the train accident in Tamil Nadu.
No,
Advani resigned, Advani resigned after
Advani
the
in
Jain diaries.
1992. It was my story in Economic Times.
Yeah, so they have been, but I'm saying in the, let's say, last 10, 15 years, I mean, does anyone, Pooja, why don't you go first? Is there a real, does anyone think he'll resign because of this?
No, I mean, it doesn't look like at the time. He doesn't have any plans. And yeah, last time Karnataka saw something like this was Yediyurappa, but also it didn't happen easily. He was badgered from all sides for a long time, and he eventually resigned because it was not tenable. His own cabinet colleagues, he lost support within the party, but made it seem like he's resigning because, on moral grounds, I'm resigning because Lokayukta.
Although the political, grapevine there was, he was made to resign because the centre did not like strong leaders in states. So it was not, they used that, but actually the reason was so
But also what happened next, right? He demanded that somebody that he
Right.
names becomes the
Becomes
chief
chief
Yeah.
minister,
minister.
etc.
It's a farce in that sense, yeah.
Jayashree, do you think are we beyond the age of where people resign for any moral grounds?
Yeah, and I don't think politically we even have a culture where people they resign for nothing. It's you sort of kind of bluster your way through it and then it passes on to the next sort of news cycle. I don't see it happening. But in this case in particular, I do have a question for Pooja, which is that I mean, I think when an illegality is alleged to have happened, then there is public interest in it coming out. But I wanted to ask you about the role of the governor, because so the entire thing sort of came up with those 3 activists filed as in they had the complaint initially, they took it to the governor, and then the governor acted on it, right? And then I think the council of ministers said that the governor can't do it unilaterally. He has to take advice, but he didn't, and then he doubled down, and then it became a thing. So how did that happen, and how did it is that also just another case of that same sort of playbook of governor in a non-BJP state?
Yeah, it looks like that because honestly, back in 2010 too, HR Bharadwaj was then the governor of Karnataka. It's like deja vu because the allegations made are exactly the same. What the defense is exactly the same. Then too, the cabinet had come and said, "Oh no, he doesn't have the grounds to sanction prosecution." So it looks like that, but even the courts have backed because Siddaramaiah did go to court challenging the governor's decision. The court said nothing doing.
That's basically the headline, right? The court has
Yeah.
basically weighed in, right?
Yeah, so that's a big blow. But I just want to add one quick point on Jayashree's earlier point of Lal Bahadur Shastri resigning because of the accident. And we saw what happened with the last 2 accidents, right? I mean, our current railways minister was rewarded. So it's a little funny that we're discussing moral high ground because people think it's not their fault. Politicians don't take responsibility for anything, right? They just move on. He was rewarded with the 2nd term. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that airport collapse also recently, they said, but it was built during X's term, Y's term, maintenance was by somebody else. So I feel like as a country, we make it really easy for politicians to just sort of bluff their way out of it. And there's really no accountability from media people either calling for resignations.
Actually, I think it's our fault. It's the media's fault when I say us. Because everyone's there to support. I mean, media supports them and puts up such a strong defense that they don't have to do anything. They just have to continue. So,
So the latest is the Karnataka cabinet on Thursday withdrew consent for any probe by CBI in the state. So they are saying this is the MUDA.
Yeah, tit for tat. Yes, I'm guessing.
So no CBI probe in whatsoever happens in the state.
Right. So, I mean, I guess the last chief minister to resign was Arvind Kejriwal. And here all of you are making fun of.
Actually, I guess he did. But I also thought
but we know why Kejriwal. I think it's a very smart thing that he resigned. It's excellent. It's like, yes, this entire sort of to show that I will wait for the charges to be proved. It's very clever.
It's basically.
More people should do it.
Is this resignation?
It's an outlier.
This is politics. This is politics.
It's basically how do you make yourself an outlier of the crowd?
This is Ram in making.
Ram in making, right?
So that's the.
I mean, look at Brij Bhushan for that
It's part
matter.
of the rut. Ram under training.
Look at Brij Bhushan for that matter. Such serious
Brij
charges.
Bhushan to usko to nothing.
He was in fact campaigning. He was, his son campaigning
His son
for
was
his son.
given the ticket.
And he was going around almost shoving reporters who were asking any questions on that.
Yeah, and poor Kangana has been there for 3 months and she's been reprimanded more times than Brij Bhushan has been reprimanded all his life.
Yeah.
It's but thank you so much, Pooja, for that. But before we say bye to you, do you have any recommendations that could enrich the lives of our listeners other than that they should subscribe to the News Minute Newslaundry joint subscription? That's very important so that journalists like Pooja can do what they do.
I don't know if I encourage people to watch it, but I just finished the series called Mad Men on Netflix. It's not new. It just is so disturbing, but it's engaging. But yeah, it's about this ad agency set in Madison Avenue in the 60s and 70s. It's very disturbing. This
Why is it
sexism,
disturbing?
Because in the 60s,
I found it very disturbing.
the sexist approach.
I can't
But
find
it's so good. It's so
Yeah,
good.
it's such a great
very
show.
so
good.
engaging, right? You can't find one decent character.
All the men are terrible, pretty much.
All of them are terrible.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, maybe somebody will come along the way who's half decent, but no. But I found that very interesting.
That's life,
and
Pooja.
engaging.
That's life.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah.
It's a great show.
And also, please watch Let Me Explain.
Yes.
Yes, please watch Let Me Explain. The link is in the show notes below. Watch it and do contribute so we can make many more Let Me Explains. Okay, Pooja,
Thank you,
have a good
guys.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, before Joyojeet joins us to discuss the US election, I just thought we could read some of the emails because we have so many. We have right now
My
almost
God, we have so many
30.
emails.
No, there are 21. So let's read a few from last week and then we can read some at the end of the
At
episode.
the end of the episode.
And we can give our pratikriya to our wonderful subscribers, suggestions, critique, recommendations, and what we can do better, because that's why we do what we do. We only entertain the emails of subscribers. So you can mail us at podcasts@newslaundry.com. I repeat, podcasts@newslaundry.com, or click on the link in the show notes below, which says mail Hafta. And if you are not a subscriber, you can leave abusive comments in the YouTube section that no one reads.
Okay, last week's letter, Cyril says, regarding the CJI PM Pooja meet, I disagree with Shardul. In this case, perceptions really matter. It's not the question about freedom to practice religion, but rather it is about public perception that there's a separation between the judiciary and the executive. In times of growing mistrust with the SC, any dilution in this perception will make the judiciary seem like a stooge of the executive. By Shardul's yardstick, accepting an RS seat and riding motorcycles owned by BJP leaders by former CGIs is also completely acceptable. Where's the line? Which CGI was riding a motorcycle owned by BJP leader?
I don't
Is that
know.
a thing?
No, it's a presumption.
Acha.
But there was a CGI, who used to ride.
That was
Acha.
Bobde. I think he had a bullet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right. Bob did. Harley, not
Yeah.
Bullet.
Something.
Oh, no
Right.
idea.
But yeah, I
Okay.
guess Cyril, at least 2 or 3 people on this panel agree with you.
Vatsal says, hi NL team, Arvind Kejriwal's resignation move appears to be a pragmatic one. Due to the conditions of release and the de facto superposition of the LG, Kejriwal and his cabinet members were anyway lame ducks. I think this move is his pitch to capture the election narrative in Delhi and bring himself at the center of the fight, which will allow him to attack the center and LG. That's true. From seeing him over years, one thing I can say about him is that he's one astute political mind and knows how to capture narratives. It might play out in his favor or might not, because in all honesty, the second Kejriwal government fell short on almost every promise they made. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I think like there is massive anger. I mean, despite whatever, there is an anti-incumbency, of course. And there is like
But
the
this
sense
is
that
the-
Delhi has deteriorated over
But
the
this
past.
is the way to counter anti-incumbency. So he is
You
trying to
spice it
change the
up.
narrative.
Yeah, I think Anand Vardhan has written a very good kind of piece analysis on this. So I quite agree with much of it. But the one thing is that when it comes to, Delhi's become a lot worse. I think the one thing Delhi's become way worse on is law and order. I mean, in the last 1 week, if you just see the city page, Mangolpuri, some nightclub shooting. Here, Vasant Kunj shooting. There was a few weeks ago robbery in Anand Niketan. It has criminals in Delhi have never been so emboldened as they are right now. In fact, and that is a failure of Mr. Amit Shah.
Police comes under
And
the Home Minister.
organized crime. That has happened
Delhi,
for
yeah.
the first time.
Delhi's
In the past 10 years.
Delhi was the
you have
land of
organized crime now.
small time goons who beat each other up for entertainment.
Yes.
It
Now
was
you have
Actually, it'll
organized
be interesting to see the
criminals.
NCRB data on this also.
And the criminals are operating from abroad.
Hmm.
So they are calling the shots in Delhi.
So in fact, that should be the main thrust of whoever contests
That's a major thing.
that look at Delhi. Even when Bombay was full of organized crime, in Delhi, the crime used to be of very petty nature. 2 goons getting angry with each other, or in college gangs.
Or parking
clashing.
lot fights,
Yeah.
shoot someone over parking space.
Yeah, but
That's
now
the
this-
most typical Delhi fight.
Now it's
Delhi crime.
No, LG has also given the reason to Kejriwal. Kejriwal can defend himself
Yeah.
on the grounds that LG is not
Not
letting-
annoying. Yeah.
Yeah,
letting
but I
them
think
work.
people are also tired. They don't want to listen to this.
But
There's a
what do they
mood in
do?
this thing also.
But
People feel कि
but that
अपने
is true. LG is not allowing them to work.
Yeah.
Akash says this is regarding Supreme Court verdict on creamy layer for reservations. One of the reasons for reservations was the untouchability and discrimination which still exists. My grandfather has been a victim, my father was a victim, and I too have been a victim of discrimination based on my caste. We are in 2024 and still have matrimony sites, WhatsApp groups, community events based on caste. And when this is so ingrained into us, why this bullshit of creamy layer? Why can't Supreme Court just remove the fucking caste system and make it punishable offense to ask, seek or find caste and end this shit forever? Then we can have modern discrimination, which would be poor, rich and women. I like how he's put in women as a perennial. That's modern. How is it modern? Anyway, deep-rooted caste system in society is visible without even trying hard to hide it. Loved the perspective of this issue on Charcha. Anyway, please send me those stickers of NL that was assured during my sign-up. It's free publicity for NMN.
So Akash, those I will
TNMN.
just check with the team, should be on their way to you. On the others, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I think it's already punishable to discriminate on the basis of caste. It's not. It's a generational change that has to come. It can't happen as
And it can't just be top-down, court-ordained. It has a lot of, every layer of society has to kind of work on it.
But I mean, I get
But it
what
has.
he's saying also because it's that frustrating, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same sort of violence that you're stuck in, and we're saying generations have passed, but we're still almost exactly the same. So there is nothing drastic that is changing about what we are like.
So Akash has a second email, says one LTA or something on Sitaram Yechuri sir or a good read recommendation on him. Anand has written a nice obituary on him. You can read that. Video for Hafta, still missing in show notes. It was only available on the recent Hafta. Like the 500 show with Deshbhakt, please also invite Ravish ji on Hafta. I'm a South Indian, I'm guessing, and it doesn't matter if someone this amazing speaks Hindi. Cheers, sorry about my 2 emails.
That's okay, Akash. Sudipto has done an interview with Sitaram Yechuri in What's Your Ism? That's in the show
Yeah.
notes below in the link, so you can check that out.
Yeah,
of course,
definitely check that out.
Anand's obituary. And as far as the Ravish is concerned, okay, we'll get him on Hafta, but yeah, the whole separation of a Hindi podcast and English podcast was that
He can come on Charcha though, for sure.
he can come on Church,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Vasudha says, Dear Abhinandan and NL team, in Hafta 501, you were talking about rewilding of ghost villages, how Japan is undertaking such a practice and we can also carry it out. But this does not include the aspect of consumption. More than the physical space occupied by our cities, villages and homes, the larger impact we have on our environment is through our consumption practices. Thus, the land and other resources need to generate the electricity we consume, whether from fossil or renewables, land mining and production of everything we consume from food, clothes, gadgets, transport. One way this is looked at is through the ecological footprint, according to which we need 1.7 Earths to sustain our present consumption pattern. Thus, even if we undertake rewilding of ghost villages, it will be dwarfed by the amounts of simultaneous destruction of forests and other habitats of both animals and people through projects such as Hasdeo mines, dams, roads being constructed in Himalayas, Greater Nicobar Project and so on. Great Nicobar Project.
Yeah, but I mean, I think while
But
there
that
is...
consumption will anyway exist. Like, that's not going to go.
It will, yeah, exactly. But there are things happening on that front also on renewables. There are, I think Norway, which has set itself 2030 or something, they'll be completely on renewables. So as like that new technology of harnessing the energy of waves to create power, as stuff like that, I mean, I still have faith. I'm an optimist. I think the pace of cleaning up the planet is going to become faster than dirtying the planet with time. That's what I
Really?
think. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like when?
How?
I think within our lifetime. We'll see, because
But
I'll
then
tell you-
everything is more polluted. But water is more toxic, air is more toxic,
Sure,
land.
it is. But what I'm saying is the technology of cleaning it up is also, like, for example, in some of these Scandinavian countries, they can suck out the, carbon dioxide from the end, the carbon, and they actually solidify it and dig it deep inside as rock. All the soot. So they are doing...
Scandinavia is so chotu.
Yeah,
But
I
isn't it
know.
also that they're small and rich?
Exactly. So what I'm
yeah.
saying is that the fact that they've been able to do that scale, it's like solar. When I was in school, it was this really tedious thing that now solar is not that uncommon.
Yeah.
So the pace
Yeah.
at which, so if the prototype has been implemented at scale, even if it's a small country with a small population, but it's done. Now to make it viable is a question of, throwing resources at it. So I think the pace at which we'll be able to clean the planet will be significantly faster. I mean, that's what I hope.
Raghav Pande says, hello, this is regarding the discussion on gender and sex that took place in the response to a letter of someone living in North America claiming things are so bad with indoctrination in schools that they're considering leaving. Abhinandan said that biological gender is undeniable. with that line about people finding someone's skeleton and knowing their sex. However, the discussion is not about sex. Sex is not a binary, but that's not important in this context. Gender is understood as socially constructed characteristics, duties, and expectations. Conversations around gender concern how people want to be treated and perceived in society, and not about how a doctor should biologically understand them, which is anyway nobody's business. In sports, of course, there's a distinction we see between men generally and women generally. However, if the distinction is based on hormones like testosterone, then the divisions should be made in accordance with that, not gender. This way, there are no outliers. I'm not a sports expert, but you cannot convince me that sports like shooting, archery, diving, table tennis even should be gender-based. I don't know. I don't know about archery because that's got to do with strength also, right?
So does table tennis. I mean, it's got to do with
like whenever
stamina.
there are varying levels of strength. And
this diving also.
About gender stuff having gone too far in the liberal West, this perception is built by Ben Shapiro types that the original letter mentioned. There's a swinging of the pendulum in the right direction, but you can't base your perception based on terminally online Twitter leftists or right-wing figureheads. The reality on ground is obviously close to quote-unquote normal. Anyway, love the podcast. Sorry about the word limit. I just thought this deserves sufficient counterposition.
And Raghav, you will be happy to know that there is going to be a 2 or 3 part LTA on the trans issue, which is being put together by subscribers. How about that? We have such
really?
lovely, yes. So
nice.
it is being
And who's
produced
the
by
host?
Aryan. I'll host it because you need an uncle voice to say the stupid things. But we have a curated panel which is put together by these 2 subscribers, one of whom is trans and one of who is LGBTQ. And they have got together a fantastic panel, and we, I think, are recording week after next, if I'm not wrong. And we'll have 2 or 3 episodes entirely put, other than Aryan who's producing it, who's in-house, and I'm hosting it. The rest of it has been put together by our subscribers.
Another letter disagreeing with Shardu's position on the Ganesh Chaturthi Puja thing. Manpreet Singh says that he's offering his perspective and says that he's giving an analogy. As a teaching assistant, I cannot be friends with my students, nor can my friends be my students. It's not about me being partial, but it might appear that way to other students. It's my responsibility to not only be impartial, but also be seen as such. The issue here isn't just about the CJI as an individual, but about his role as the face of an institution. This puja wasn't a public or social event, but a very personal one with no other invitees. While I wouldn't object if it took place in a more social setting, the private nature of this occasion raises concerns about perceived impartiality. CJI has the responsibility to not only act fairly, but to ensure he's seen as fair without a risk of any personal biases. I'm still unclear about who initiated it and the purpose of it.
Well, I would say, given it was such a event for clearly video, only one person has such a great team of screenplay writers, editors.
I'm sure the conspiracy theory is this, that the CGI must have got a call from the PMO.
That I'm coming. Dinner.
Prime Minister.
May I come for dinner?
और okay, मुझे भी थोड़ा पता करता हूँ. All photographers were
already there placed.
Ravi Kumar says, dear Newslaundry team, my last mail was botched up in the reading, so repeating Harsh
and Khabar.
Both have nukta. Harsh क्या होता है?
Kharch.
अच्छा, Kharch.
And Khabar both have a nukta.
Either put it at both places or do what Mahapandit Rahul Sanskritya said. Drop all nukta. यार ये don't be a police, nukta police.
Nukta police.
नहीं आता तो ठीक है, खबर बोल दो.
Hindi alphabet does not have any nukta. And if you're claiming to be speaking Hindi, why do you have to put it nuktas?
Is it nukta or dot? What
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dot below, which makes a kh.
मेरे से कभी नहीं होता. I can never like.
Actually, most people, like even sir's kh is correct because I think earlier when you studied in school, the kh was a very important
My
aspect.
problem is being a Punjabi, I think ja or ya. I have a major problem there.
Yeah.
So anything
Punjabis have this.
ja
Yeah.
and ya.
Yeah.
So I
Player.
become very
Player.
Player.
no, player.
Player is very a Punjabi
First,
thing.
when I went to Chandigarh, I was
There
like,
is-
Punjabi.
There is no
My
mayyar
mama-
to the amount of player.
no,
But I feel
like I being an
My
army kid,
mama-
I studied in Chandigarh for I was so stunned the first time I landed up in a school in Chandigarh. The chemistry teacher's mayyar. I'm like, what is this?
What is mayyar?
Then I realized measure. She's saying measure.
Now here's the thing. Not a single Punjabi will write a mail saying, why were you making fun of us on Hafta? Try the same thing with
Punjabi's are good natured,
with someone,
good humored. Yeah.
or try the same thing with a Bengali, and we have one joining us, Joyojeet Pal. So try the same thing. See the amount of mails you get. You will get a mail saying, do you have Satyajit Ray? Do you have Rabindranath Tagore? Do you have?
Do you have any culture?
You go to your tandoori chicken and shut up.
You don't have any culture. You have agriculture.
But let us join.
Actually, just let me finish the letter. He's actually taken umbrage to the fact that when Sohail Seth asks you to pronounce Madhavi Puri book as book, you follow suit. And when your subscribers ask you to do something, you don't do it. Your subscribers are knowledgeable than thousands Sohail Seths.
Right.
Ghar ki murgi dal barabar nahi hai. By the way, there's a nukta under murgi. In summary, if you can claim to be an intellectual, do a proper job. Else, your claim, like Abhinandan, that I do not care how anyone pronounces latte, as long as they get me a latte, then be that. Stop pretending. My God, you're really touchy about this.
So who was it who dismissed the nukta? I want to know.
I dismiss it right now after reading this because
Manisha.
नहीं होता कुछ लोगों से नहीं pronounce होता कोई बात नहीं कोई.
Yeah, I'm not
Language is supposed to be, you just need to understand each other.
I'm not a pronunciation police. I'm not a PP.
Yeah.
But we have now joining us from Michigan, where it is, I guess, frightfully early in the morning, Joyojeet Pal. Hi, Joyojeet. How early in the morning is it?
Hi, it's 7:30 a.m., but I'm not much of a morning person.
But Michigan is also very cold, right?
Not yet. Also, I should tell you that I'm from Bombay. मैं Bengali on paper है, लेकिन
but otherwise you're not a Hilsa man, you're a Vada Pav man.
Oh God.
No, so you can check out Joyojeet's column on the American election. In fact, his first piece, Indian Americans in US Politics, Pioneers, Pigeonholes and a New Age. The link is in the show notes below. And also Joyojeet hosts an annual conference at the University of Michigan, which has some fantastic speakers and sessions, and we get to learn much from there. But right now, Joyojeet, other than the general stuff that I'm sure you'll fill me up on, and I'm sure the panel has many questions, I was watching some of the coverage of the US election, and just before you came, I was saying how depressed I was about 4 days ago. Well, I wasn't depressed. You should not trivialize depression. See, I've also become woke.
Oh God.
She cannot believe it. So I was rather amused, let me put it that way, when I was flipping channels 4 days ago. On the Indian channels, the big issue that was being covered in the most hysterical way was that, also it's not confirmed, but there may be animal fat in the Tirupati laddu. Right? And all channels are going on about that. Chief Minister jumping in, everyone is jumping in. And I flipped the channel to CNN, and there was this, just everybody was fighting about dogs and cats being eaten in Ohio, which is this town? Springfield. And I was like, the biggest and the oldest democracy, and this is what our news channel picks up. Now, is it just that the news channels pick it up because it's amusing and people like me watch it? Or is it actually something that will influence voter decisions over there?
So there is a lot of negative sentiment towards immigration, more so in this election than there has been in previous elections. Because historically what has happened in the States is that there's been two segments of society which are generally considered to be pro-immigration. One is business, for obvious reasons. They're hiring people for low-cost labor, what have you. And the other is people who are immigrants themselves, right? So bringing in second-generation immigrants and so on and so forth. But the discourse around southern border has been huge in this election, and it's been made more important by the fact that Kamala Harris was the immigration czar in the Biden administration, so she can be attacked.
It's a direct attack on her then, right? Okay.
It is an attack on her, but it is a sort of rallying issue for Republicans in general, historically. So it is going to be an issue in this election. And in the one thing that is different this time around is that typically immigration used to be something that people in border states were more concerned about, or at least like that would be something that a lot about. Now what has happened is that Midwestern states where it isn't so visible, so people of color or wherever they're coming from don't really be part of the public sphere here where I am at in Michigan, for instance. But it's become a big issue because it gets so talked about in the media that gets consumed, which is often sort of YouTube-based type media. So it is something that when Trump talked about immigrants eating dogs in Haiti, there was a sort of surprised reaction or kind of half laughing reaction from Kamala Harris. But it's not that surprising what people are willing to believe about immigrants in the United States. And the situation is just tense enough that it makes a very, very quick news story.
In fact, this data was pointed out, I think, by Jimmy Kimmel of one of the late night shows I was watching, that what percentage of Trump voters Jimmy Kimmel had actually pointed this out, believe the story that immigrants are eating dogs and cats of neighbors. And it emerged that almost more than half don't believe the story.
Okay.
And he said that's such a telling thing about our politics, that your presidential candidate can make such a ridiculous lie and he's lying.
But it doesn't matter.
But you'll still vote for him. So, I mean, I don't know if that's true for across political, ideologies.
It's true for It's true for in India's case also.
Yeah.
For example, when the Prime Minister said bhains chura lenge, a lot of his supporters don't agree with it and don't believe that he meant it, or don't believe that actually Muslims are out to chori karo their bhains. But that leeway is given to politicians. That it's politics, they'll play politics. ठीक है, वो तो बोलेंगे ही.
So again, because putting on my academic hat, there's these theories behind why people believe misinformation. Right. So there's existential theories of misinformation, which is that when you are afraid of your future, then you are more likely to believe all kinds of things. So COVID being a case in point. So you're afraid of what is going to happen. Your existence in some sense is a threat. So believe whatever. And then there's this other notion of a social theory of misinformation where whatever makes your social group look better compared to the other social group, you are more willing to believe. So in this case, there's a confluence of both of those happening, that there is some amount of existential fear, economic fear, etc. So people are more susceptible to misinformation, alongside which there is this us versus them attitude where anything negative about the other side, even if you're slightly like, this may or may not be true, it just reinforces, makes you happier to think that group is really, really terrible. They're eating dogs. Now, the additional layer on that is if the media environment is sullied enough that people are more and more likely to believe extreme things, then it just makes a better baseline for that.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing in action.
And when it comes to the Indian diaspora, and others can jump in after this with their comments or questions, I was seeing the data, the Indian American as opposed to the American Indian, which the Prime Minister of India, he was in the US. He's back, right? He's not there anymore, right?
He's back.
He's back. So I don't know whether you're following the media. I don't know if it was as big a deal over there, but here there was wall-to-wall coverage of Prime Minister Modi in the US. He had gone to the UN General Assembly, I'm guessing.
And the Quad thing.
And the Quad thing on the sideline. So he said that what is AI? Not artificial intelligence, American Indian. So someone should point out to him the American Indian is not the Indian American. That's different. So there was that. But did it make headlines over there that Prime Minister Modi was there and there was a Quad meeting? And Indians are, as an ethnic group in the US, the second highest per capita income they have. It is a very, very rich ethnic group in India, in the US, the Indian Americans. Is it so small that it's not a group that has significant lobbying power, considering you had at least, 3 presidential and vice presidential hopefuls who have an Indian connection? Kamala Harris, that Vivek Ramaswamy, who didn't make it, and the vice president candidate of the Republicans, whose wife is Indian.
Well, Nikki Haley as well.
Nikki Haley as well. So there's a lot of Indian connections. But
Larusha Vance is there.
as a lobbying group, is there any Indian kind of group that has significant power?
So Modi's speech didn't really make it to the news over here. I'm imagining people listened into the speech. Because I work in this space, had to sit through it, and the use of these acronyms. I don't know what the aspirational India. It's very interesting, actually. If you listen to the speech, it's almost like the way people react is like a Rajnikant crowd type of thing, where people are in a frenzy, and anything that he says, people go Modi, Modi, Modi. So it's a performance, and that has its value in and of itself. That these extremely wealthy tech millionaires are standing there and just going gaga, going into a trance every time he comes on stage, type of thing. But the press as such didn't carry it, in part because there's so much else happening, and in part because somebody coming and speaking at the UN General Assembly, it's not a big deal. I mean, honestly, it happens all the time. And as such, the US, they don't really care about foreign heads of state. The only one they would care about, if I have to be very blunt about it, is probably Putin. If Putin says something, they're all right, oh, well, Putin said something, and maybe Netanyahu. Yeah.
Other than that, they don't really care.
So, outside of that, they don't make the news. Okay, so now the Indian Americans as a lobbying group, that's a much more interesting question, because historically, the lobbying for a community outside of a critical incident doesn't really work in the United States, with the exception of APAC, because APAC is for Israeli Americans, and then that has a very consistent lobby, and then there's a stream of funding that goes to Israel. So it's one of those lobbies which is constantly alive. The Indian American lobby, the most important period where it came alive was when something called US INPAC, which is US India Political Action Committee. So it's a little bit complicated, because in the US there's different laws around how you can lobby governments, etc. So the time that it really came alive was late Clinton, when there was sanctions against India. So there was this goal to en masse create a caucus and get action moving around India. And the second time when it really came into action was a continuation of that, which was during the nuclear deal between US and India, where a number of lobbyists went after specific representatives to make sure that they would vote in favor of that, right? So outside of that, the real lobbying happens often through very specific industry organizations. The very important one here is something called AAHOA, which is Asian American Hotel Owners Association. So that's the motel owners' historical, traditional group. And they tend to give some amount of money to Indian American candidates, but more around issues which are specific to hotel owners, right? So they were also important from a lobbying perspective, because they were the ones who tried to bring Narendra Modi to the US. Then he got banned, and they changed their lobbying to also include people from representatives from the far right, right? So other than that, the interesting group that has suddenly propped up, which is not Indian per se, but has a lot of Indians, is in this new kind of venture capital type space, where there is some number of highly wealthy Indian Americans who tend to put some amount of money towards slightly more libertarian leaning causes. But as a group, I don't see Indian Americans as an important lobbying
So then,
culture.
So they're influential parts of other groups, whether it's this hotel association or whatever. But just for our audience, an American Indian are what one calls the Native Americans, what in more politically incorrect age were called Red Indians. You remember when we used to read those comics, Cowboys and Indians? So that is the American Indian. People from our ethnicity who go and settle down there are Indian Americans. So when Prime Minister said American Indians, then Dances with Wolves and Big Chief Dripping Water turned around and said, yo, us? But yeah, anyone else on the panel want to jump in with any questions, comments on what's happening in the US election, whether it is Indian prism or the non-Indian prism?
No, I think in India, people became more interested because of Kamala Harris. Her parents were,
Mother was Indian, right?
So that is the interest that the Indians have. So I don't know what stage we are at. I mean, Joy, I mean, is there, can we make any predictions at this point of time, or I mean, are they at par? And also, if any more debates are going to happen, I think this is something which
I think no more debates are going to happen. But just one bit of statistic that I read. All the polls that are conducted are done by calling people. It's not like a physical poll. They're not people standing. Like back in the day, people would stand at very busy intersection and ask you. It's all by phone. And out of every 1,000 calls that are made, only 27 are answered.
Oh.
So one of the, analysis is that these US polls, if only 27 or 1,000 are being answered, and one of the logic put forth by one, number cruncher was that who's going to answer a call from a random number in a, country like US, where in any case you don't even answer the call from known numbers, is a bored Republican who's over 65 years old. That was a general. So I don't know how accurate the polls are if they're only done by, and that is a pathetically small number of calls being answered. So
and such a huge industry around it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So to answer your question, right now it looks like it's going pretty neck and neck. There was a huge push for Kamala Harris. She's still neck and neck, but ahead. Is the expectation is that if they were to go to elections today, then it's more likely that Kamala Harris will win. But it's very hard to say. In general, there is this person I once met who was telling me that I think it was like 6 weeks before George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton went to polls, the approval ratings for George H.W. Bush, Senior Bush, was about 80%, somewhere in that range. And then, Clinton comes and turns it around. And it's very hard to make a real guess until you're really in the last week or two. But that kind of deviance that you would see someone go from 80% all the way over, that doesn't happen in American politics anymore, because the level of polarization that people have has gotten much wider right now. So someone who is decidedly Republican is not going to move over to the Democrat side, which is one of the reasons why this campaign from Kamala Harris is a little bit surprising, because of the extent to which she's made overtures to Republicans, which is very unusual among Democrat candidates. If you see during the Democrat National Convention, there was a bunch of Republicans who came and spoke. Even now, if you look at the television ads, I live in what is called a swing state. So you can't watch anything on television or whatever, your Amazon Prime without some political ad coming. And a lot of them are around issues that you would typically never see among Democrats. Okay.
Like, for example?
So for example, Kamala Harris on stage saying that she's a proud gun owner.
Yeah.
This is not something that Democrats said.
And also, when she said if anyone breaks into my house, they're getting shot.
She said Oprah or someone, no?
Yeah, on Oprah's show. But there's a great time to quickly slip in. On Newslaundry, no matter what you watch, no matter what you read, there'll be no ad popping up with any political leader's face, because we are not, funded by ads, whether it is CPM ads or official Sarkari corporate ads, because we are funded by you. Here are QR code. You can scan the QR code and contribute, or in the link. because that is one of the reasons we think news may be going downhill. Yeah, sorry, Joyojeet, for that interception. You can continue.
Interception.
Yeah. Besides which, the other typical thing that would happen is that union would almost always go to the side of the Democrats. And this time, for the first time, there was a major union leader who came up on the Trump during the Republican National Convention, came up and spoke up on the Republican side. And there's been no official Teamster, which is the major union, the group as a whole has not backed up Kamala Harris, even though there are small subgroups which have. And what Kamala Harris has been doing on the campaign is much more broad, inclusive for everyone type of discourse, rather than what tends to be slightly more pandering to one's own base type discourse. So if you're to understand why there's that separation, one is that unlike if this were a Biden campaign, Kamala Harris has sort of jumped into this a little bit late. So she's trying to take an approach which pleases everyone instead of going specific to her base. But second, there's two reasons why politicians do this in the States. And to understand that, you need to get a sense of what the electoral college system, how that works, which is that in the US, most states don't matter. Okay, so if you live in California, it doesn't matter. The candidate is going to ignore you completely. Why? Because generally it is understood that California is going to vote liberal, Democrat. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what they do. All their bloc is going to get credited towards Democrats. So the only ones that matter are states like Michigan. Now Georgia is considered a swing state, Minnesota. So those states and the issues that matter in those states become much more important. So
those become the national issues, is what you're saying.
Correct. For the election, those become the national issues. So if you know that hunting is really part of the country in a specific state, then you're going to go for hunting or you're going to be careful about how you deal with guns. So the choice of Tim Walz itself as someone who is a Midwestern person is very important, because they want to consolidate that. Already they have a Californian on the ticket. There's this whole discourse in the US about Californians being far left, etc. And even within that, Kamala Harris is from Oakland, Berkeley, San Francisco area, which is even within that is considered even farther out there left. So there is this attempt from Kamala Harris to be more centrist. So imagine the difference between this is, are you trying in your electoral speech to whip up your masses so that they have higher turnout, or are you trying to eat into independents? And what I would say is Kamala Harris's approach here is trying to eat into independence. And that, again, has a very important line to Nikki Haley, who left the campaign on the Republican side, did not leave with an endorsement of Donald Trump, which means that everyone who was backing her, at least like in her perception, is now a free agent. So Kamala Harris's approach is, let me not go for my base. I feel like I have them in the bag. Let me instead go for the in-betweens.
And I think in a sense, that's a reasonable position to have, because at least in the US, it's not a question of policies, at least by the rhetoric that one sees. It is between choosing maybe bad policies and insanity. That is the choice. When I see Trump's speeches, and I've been watching, and they're addictive. Let's face it,
he's highly watchable.
Because he's just so ridiculous. Like he's selling that coin, a really beautiful face.
I know.
It's got my face and it has a letter of authenticity.
Hello, everyone. I have something incredible to share today. We are announcing the launch of Trump Coins, a true symbol of American greatness. This coin is composed of 99.9% pure silver with a beautiful proof finish, and it's really something very special. Each coin comes with a certificate of authenticity with my signature to ensure you have purchased a real Trump coin. I've seen a lot of coins out there using my very beautiful face. I'm Very beautiful guy. I'm only kidding.
Like I was watching that, yeah, in the middle of a presidential campaign, he's selling a Trump coin. So, no matter what you think of Kamala, she can afford to take her base for granted that beta jaoge kahan? Who will you vote for? So I might as well pander to the gun nuts. But, Jayashree, anything you want to come in with?
No, I actually did have a question for Joyojeet. Does it really matter then? Because like Abhinandan said, it's not really about the issue. It's sort of now it's about personalities, right? So tangentially, like there are questions on things like abortion rights and immigration and so on. But what about sort of issues like healthcare? Because I think she walked back on Medicare for all, I think. And also on stuff like fracking, unemployment. Like, are those things that she even needs to bother addressing anymore? Like, does she need to come out with an agenda for it? Or is she still going to ride on the idea that she is the alternative to an insane Trump presidency?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, the second thing I would have said, which is a case of something that Democrat would not say, would to come out in favor of fracking, right? It's a very clear liberal, like almost like a red line that you don't do fracking if you're liberal leaning. So the reason there is very simple. Pennsylvania is a swing state, and the governor of Pennsylvania was one of the people who was being considered as the vice presidential pick, Josh Shapiro. But Josh Shapiro took certain positions on Palestine, which were seen as unpalatable to Democrat base, so he didn't get the thing. So now it becomes that Pennsylvanians are not rejected by the fact that their governor didn't make it to the vice presidential pick. And fracking is something that is important in Pennsylvania vis-a-vis jobs. So she's going to take a generally pro-fracking position there as well, right? So Kamala Harris then comes across as somebody who is a little bit wishy-washy, doesn't have a clear set of policy agenda issues, and is instead just trying to be a kind of nice for everyone type of candidate. There is a real risk in that, because that has the chance of people thinking, well, this is just an establishment person, and how much do we really dislike the other person to be willing to vote for this candidate? But as a matter of fact, that is what is not specific to US elections. It's become standard everywhere that elections are now about personality, and which is also why when you saw the debate, what Kamala Harris was trying to do was to finger Trump into sticking his shoe into his own mouth.
Yeah.
And she effectively did that a couple of times.
Sure.
And if you look at the core substance of what she was saying, it was very empty. It wasn't, she was making very specific, okay, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to stand with it. It was very generic stuff with no real, I'm going to go ahead and give you this kind of money, but not noting that you can't do that unilaterally. You need Congress to do that. And Congress is not going to pass certain bills, et cetera, et cetera. So not going into details in a very specific way. And then, of course, Donald Trump has gone ahead and decided that these kind of debates are not good for him because he takes the bait. So he's not going to do any more debates. So Kamala Harris now no longer has the option of showing Donald Trump to be a fool to the general public. So now she's in a slightly riskier position where what she's saying about policy actually starts to matter.
I'll say one thing though about this entire Modi in India thing, which is that I found that entire stadium, where was it? In Long Island, he had that event. So first they said, oh, there are 13,000 people. Then they said, no, there are 24,000 people. But then also the stadium didn't look very full. So what I found funny was that he talked about core issues that he and his government have achieved in the last 10 years to, like, his adoring public. And the top achievements included better airports and better broadband services. So it's like, this is what NRIs want. They want better Wi-Fi and they want a good airport when they come to India. And then all those NRIs will tell you, my God, this is the golden age of India now. Then my brothers, but why are you missing out? Like, you could come back. It's fine.
But, one of the things, I think when you surround yourself by just, I mean, probably Trump has the same problem with just, what's the word I'm looking for? People who... Yes men, lackeys or the like. And the media that you consume is not questioning you or pushing back at you. Trump doesn't have that option.
Yeah.
Modi has that. Modi and the Hindu on their Insta, ran that clip with not the slightest, it was clearly they were making fun of Mr. Modi. He said there is this, and he was talking about it as if he's come up with some genius moment. That now we will have two parallel policy making initiatives. Parallel to government policy, there will be data-based policy. Dude, if your policies are not based on data, what the fuck are you basing your policies on?
Census to kara lo pehle yaar,
I'm
data
like,
policy
dude,
karne ke liye.
and he was saying this with, like, if in any normal, and I'm hoping you guys will correct me now and then, you do in any case, that please, so many of my things are cut because I say things that are stupid. But if I say that, someone there should have said, he said, what I'll do, I'll go make a press conference, I'll say we make policies, but now we will make database policies. Because so far we haven't been making, we've been doing like someone said, Mr. Modi, I don't think that will make you look good. That will suggest that this is some new invention, whereas most policies in sensible countries in the world is made based on some data. That if this geography has 80 people below poverty line, then you should do something in that geography. It's not something new that you've thought up of, but he clearly thinks that he's just come up with some brilliant new genius move.
Yeah, so this, on this, with the manner of speaking, Modi's speech in the US, and whether there are parallels to the way that Trump gives his speeches. I mean, there are ways in which they're very, very different. Like Modi can literally, if you watch this speech, at some point he said, "Chalo sab log maa ke naam pe jhaad uganega," or something like, you take a tree and plant it and name it after your mother. He could just as well say, "Chalo sab log baap ke naam pe bhais palne ka," and then they will salute it and clap for it. Because in some sense, the point is that he's selling an experience. Like while you're in there, you feel this sense of unity with everybody. And I've been to a Modi's speech, and it's really electric in the way that he's able to control the crowd and move it up and down. And Trump really does something very similar, while Modi's speeches are actually very clever in the sense that they're not divisive in the same sense that Trump's speeches are. But Modi's speeches can also border on the ridiculous, right? While you're listening to it, you're saying, okay, he's speaking in Hindi, and every time there's an English word, which is some kind of an, maybe like a fifth standard and above level verb, then he suddenly switches to English, and then he goes back to Hindi. And then there's the acronym, which AI, America, India, Aspirational India. And then people seem to clap for it. But the point is that you never apologize that, oh, I sounded stupid over there. And Trump really has the same style as well, is that he says something that seems off, but he doesn't come back next time and say, oh, that kind of like, thoda zyada ho gaya. But it's the same with Modi as well. The important thing is that the reason why Kamala Harris is playing a very specific game is she has one clear trump card, which is women's issues. And I'm willing to wager that this election is going to get decided on abortion more than anything else in the United States.
That's good for her because it will be overwhelming. Women will be overwhelmingly voting for her in that case, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what she's going for.
I see. Okay, on that note, we should let Joyojeet go, but before that, he has to give us some recommendations that could enrich the lives of our listeners. But Joy, thank you so much for waking up so early in the morning and being on this podcast. But before you go, guys, do read his column. It'll be coming right on the run-up to the US election. But what do you have that you think our audience should read, hear, or watch?
Yeah, this gave me some tension because I actually am not much of a reader. I only read when some significant other has forced me to read something, and but then I'm like a professor, so I have to come up with something intelligent. So I was wondering about, like, okay, what did you watch? I actually watched Coolie #1 again. But
so would you recommend it?
Absolutely recommend anything. Kader Khan is the most important person in the history of Indian cinema, in my opinion. But
okay.
I did think of something smart to say. J.M. Coetzee, Nobel Prize laureate, wrote a book called Disgrace. It's a very complicated. It's a man talking about stuff which is really, really heavy, but it is about
a professor who has a relationship with a student.
That is that is only one part of it, but it's very allegorical. The book is about what it is to lose power, and it is about whites losing power in some sense in South Africa. And it's very, very highly recommended. It's a short enough book, written in very easy language, and by the end of it, you kind of get a sense of why this person's work, problematic and in its ways, is so important. And I really, really recommend it. So yeah. The other case where the only other situation where I read is if I think I'm going to die, and I recently had pneumonia, so I was reading Japanese mystery books, which I actually recommend as well. They're good fun.
So when you think you're going to die, you read a lot.
Yeah, because you say, abhi to theek hai, abhi to, make your peace with it. So I'll read a book. So
it's a good enough reason,
I guess. But thank you, Joyojeet. You can read Joyojeet's articles on the US election on newslaundry.com. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Joy.
Sure.
Bye.
So this is what he had said.
अब मैं डेटा पॉलिसी को लेकर के अभी आ रहा हूं और मैं गवर्नेंस के मॉडल में डेटा गवर्नेंस पर भी बल दे रहा हूं. मैं गवर्नेंस में एक साइमल्टेनियस पिलर खड़ा करना चाहता हूं जो गवर्नेंस के ट्रेडिशनल मॉडल है, उसके साथ साथ एक गवर्नेंस का डेटा गवर्नेंस का मॉडल, ये दोनों साइमल्टेनियस कैसे काम करे.
He will have not only
And data also, this government manufactures data.
Be impressed, Jayashree.
I mean,
he sounds like a parody of himself.
There will not only be governance, because so far governance was data. Who cares? But now we'll have governance based on data. Oh dear God, this is so exciting.
I think you're just being too harsh. A lot of politicians say very banal shit. It's okay.
Yeah.
Leave Modi ji alone.
It's not a
Now that I'll only leave Modi ji alone if you promise that when I'm arrested for these jokes, no one will sit on my chair.
Sit in splendor.
There will be just a chair.
Most of the think tanks
with a sugar testing apparatus, because I test my sugar every 3 o'clock every afternoon.
Most of the think tanks have shut down their shops because there's no data.
Yeah. But so that is
this government is manufacturing data.
You're missing it because all that information this pillar has to be erected with that data.
Hope we will get some data for our stories.
Some data, hopefully. So on that note, any closing thoughts before we get to a few more emails? We will not read all because there's so many. On the US election, Jayashree, Raman sir, Manisha, but it is the best late night TV, and each time I watch it, I just feel so sad that India does not have that culture of every news channel having 1 hour slots at night where you just roast the politicians.
Best late night was Shekhar Soman, no?
Yeah, that was the last. I mean, I'm not saying I always agree with it, but they even make jokes on the assassination attempt of Trump. Can you imagine if someone did that here? You'd be in jail on bloody AFSPA, NASA, whatever, everything. They'd throw everything at you. You'd like making a joke. It's just so sad, man. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just becoming boring as people.
Many years ago, when I went to Libya, and we were
with the dictator,
kind of imprisoned, for 7 days, and all that we were listening to. Allahu Akbar on the official TV. So the same thing. I mean, you write one tweet and you're booked.
So as the reporter had gone to Libya and there Muammar Gaddafi tha na, so he was their guest. So you had so they were just locked up after their coverage of what they were locked up. So now you stay here till you go back. And that's when Sir went and played football out in the streets of Libya.
And
I don't know why I'm laughing at the story, but
I did anchor for the Indian Express. It was front page anchor story.
So Manisha, let's get a few more mails before we wind up.
So now this week's letter, Jabin. This CJ Modi Ganesh Puja has really got everyone riled up. So Jabin is saying that celebrating Ganesh Puja you can't compare celebrating Ganesh Puja to an iftar party where only work, the comparison would only work if both the Chief Justice and the PM of India were Muslim and made a public display of their shared religion. If that were to happen, it would be extremely problematic. But are we likely to ever have both those posts filled by Muslims, that too at the same time? Usually, Shardul talks such sense. It was disappointing to hear him trot out this straw man argument. I guess you can take the boy out of the sung, but not the sung out of the boy so easily. On another note, thank you for putting the full podcast on video.
Hey, Jabin.
I think also iftar parties are probably like, the comparison would be a holy party.
Yeah, exactly. Which we made that
which is
point
okay.
that day also. We made that like, RSS has
But
holy
yeah,
melons and we all
Puja
go.
and specific. Actually, the problem is not the puja per se, but the fact that they came together on a personal thing, on a personal one-on-one thing together. I think that's what most people object. But I have no strong opinion on this.
It was completely optic.
Yeah.
The news media wasn't informed about it. There was no news photographer. It was PMO's photographers who
Correct.
took the picture
And then pulled
they
out.
released it through PIB.
Yeah.
So let us
But if
face
the
it.
PM wants to come to CJI's house for Ganesh Puja, can the CJI say no?
No, even if he can, he doesn't have to make a song and dance about it.
But CJI can't
They don't
say...
have to do an arti together.
I don't think you can say no to Modi if he wants to come in
No,
with
you
his
can't, of
camera
course
crew.
not. I mean, if he wants to come to our studio, welcome.
If he
We
wants
are
to
not
come and he
say
says, I'll come with my camera, we can't say nahi aa sakte.
No.
Say,
No,
we'll do puja with him also.
no. Okay.
You're not
But-
the prime minister.
But I just have two quick emails that I want to read so that we can get the shorter ones out of the way.
Okay.
One is Peter Cat Recording Company.
Are you the band Peter Cott Recording Company?
No, I think it's a fake person.
If you're the band, then I'm a really big fan.
Okay. So if you're the real thing, you have a fan here.
It's a very specific name.
But Peter
But
Cat
yeah.
Recording Company says, will we see another Anand Ranganathan emerge from Newslaundry? Well, we have one that is threatening every now and then, sitting right here.
Closet.
Then Rajiv says, hi Jayashree.
Huh?
How have you concluded that Arabs are brown people? It's the second time I've heard this from you. Is there any scientific research or do you meet Arabs who say so? Because I know of an Arabs to know
That
that
they don't. Yeah,
and
they
they
really
consider
don't.
brown people as third grade humans. Everything isn't about color-based racism. Note, I recognize Israel as apartheid and they are doing genocide. So it's not like I'll
I
speak
like
in
how
their
Rajiv
favor
just
also.
wants
No,
to be
then
clear
he's
to
totally right.
Jayashree that he's, his credentials is I recognize Israel as apartheid. So please.
No, he's my counter to that is he's probably right. And that
Yeah, of course. Arabs are like...
I say brown as a term to just sort
No,
of
but I don't think
refer to all
that's
of them, but
incorrect.
I do know that some Arabs do take great issue with being referred to as brown, and they sometimes even classify themselves as white. I say brown just to sort of
I mean, I don't
use
know.
a collective way to refer to them, but
That way, even a Punjabi like our co-founder Prashant can say I'm white because of how fair he
No,
is.
but Arabs
but
do not...
say all sorts of things.
But doesn't
So-
matter. I'm saying what Rajiv is saying can also be true, and what you're saying is also. I mean, I would.
yeah.
If I had to
There's no
categorize
one-
Arab, I would categorize them as brown. But that doesn't mean brown people cannot be racist towards brown people. I mean, some of the most racist people we meet are Indian.
Yeah, of
And they'll be racist towards other Indians. So
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with it. But I think I have several friends who actually have lived in Dubai, and each one of them, this is something that there's been consistency on. That they say it is the most racist place I have lived in, more than America, in Europe, because there, either you have to be white or you have to be a local Arab, and they know who's a local Arab. If you're an Indian, he said, because many of them are in the finance industry, he said, I'll go to a restaurant, like a high-end restaurant, and guys who are working under me, but are white, because they're bankers, will not be denied a table, but I will. Because the racism against Indian is huge.
I
Which-
think... But I'm actually curious to know whether Arabs, like... Is there like an ethnic division? I mean, not ethnic, is there a racial... Like, where do they fall in the racial... Because I think in the US, Arabs are white. They're deemed white.
No, not
ऐसा
at
कोई
all.
law नहीं था?
No, the brown. I mean, you can check this by, I don't know if they still sell it by Fair and Lovely.
No.
Fair and Lovely in the
in-
ads used to have this ruler of what shade are you, and then you can check
No,
your
no,
shade.
I'm saying like
After
racially.
6 weeks of applying Fair and Lovely, you can see where you've moved on that shade card. So
Yeah.
as per that shade card, I'm thinking Arabs will not be in the...
No, but to answer Manisha's thing, I don't think Arabs are classified as brown in the US.
Yeah.
Brown is very strictly Indian and South,
Yeah,
that
South
sort
Asian.
of Indian subcontinent and so on. I think Arabs do come under white,
White, yeah.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah, ऐसा है. Everyone can paylo what... Like, when I went to Morocco, I was shocked at how racist many people in Morocco are about Africans.
Yeah.
They say
It's like how Indians are racist
They say
to
we're not
Africans,
Africans. We are more like European. He says you can see Spain from, Tangier or wherever it is, they claim. So they are more racist towards their own continent because they don't consider themselves, because it's North Africa, as the southern part of Africa. So, and they are way fairer than, say, the Nigerian part of the continent. But your color has nothing to do with your being racist towards that.
Oh,
color,
yeah,
is what
of
I'm
course.
saying.
Yes.
Yes.
Joe says, regarding the discussion on work-life thing, I think it's extremely ignorant to not acknowledge the fact that in the last decade, especially since COVID, the lines between work, off work have become incredibly blurred. Finish your work, go play football doesn't apply when there's a high likelihood that your manager will call you in the middle of the match asking you to join a meeting, and obviously you can't decline. I have peers who are expected to carry their laptops even during vacations and basically expected to be available 24/7 since you just can't connect from home now. Since you can just connect from home now. As for what Anand said, the current generation is rights-based, whatever that means, and does not build a relationship with their work. I think that's actually a net positive. I couldn't finish my rant without exceeding the word limit. There's also a second part. In the last 2 years, we've seen massive amounts of layoffs from the largest, most reputed companies in the world. Maybe we are all better off if we stop putting our employers on a pedestal and glorifying them. Like Manisha said, we work hard so that our future generations don't have to suffer the way we did. Then why do we criticize them for that? Maybe stop with the back in my day and this current generation. The whole point is for them to have less to have struggled less, is it not? And it's not like they're living in utopia. I'm sure their lives are messed up in different ways that we can't relate to.
So yeah, I mean, there's some of what Joe's saying is I agree with, some I don't. The thing is that it's the same. Every generation thinks something unique has happened in their time. Internet is unique, but it has an impact. Like, it's like saying that post-COVID, suddenly you are expected to join meetings. That was true even pre-internet. I mean, there were still times where during elections, in fact, now the election results happen one day.
I mean, earlier you'd sleep in the office rather than go home and
you
connect.
wouldn't go home. You'd be there for 4 days because the results would come every 4-8 hours. So every generation has different problems and different ways of dealing with it. I just think that, when Anand said that it's a right-based generation, I mean, when I was on that Yuva panel, they asked everyone on the panel, what do you think of the youth? Now, I was the oldest person on the panel on an event organized by Yuva. So everyone was, oh, this youth is great. Everyone said very nice things. I think.
Then you swept in.
And then I said they're entitled, they're fragile, but unfortunately, they're our only hope. So they are, it's a fact. They should be told the truth. They are fragile. Okay.
Yes, for you, everyone is fragile. I don't think we can go with your definition.
No,
I thought at least you said one good thing about that. Even in the third.
But I think it's an entitlement piece. Like,
but I think one thing
it's
he
so
makes-
new. Suddenly we have invented what it's like to be called. Dude, every generation faced it.
But
I'm
also,
just saying
we always, all our conversations on this will always come back to, but the younger generation, they're doing this is wrong. So we actually do talk about that a lot on this podcast. So I do agree with Joe that we need to that's a given. We can say yes.
True.
Consider it said, but here's the rest.
And one thing I do agree with the layoffs and the kind of insecurity and the kind of, how easily replaceable you can feel sometimes. I think that has increased over time, especially with these mass layoffs. And I think that has a role to play in how you view your work. You no longer look at it as like a secure, safe thing that you opted for.
Yeah, and also
that has an impact.
Salaries have not grown.
Salaries have not grown.
Cost of living.
Yeah. So then you feel...
So we can just read 2-3 of the shorter ones. We'll have a separate hafta for all the long ones.
Shorter dekhti hu. Ye... Okay. Anonymous says, referring to discussion on American presidential elections, Jayashree, I apologize if I got the spelling wrong, hit the nail on the head when she said that either of Kamala or Trump come to power, they won't stop the genocide in Gaza. The reason, however, has to do with the presence of Israel lobby that pays massive amounts to both Democrats and Republicans. 17% of billionaires in the US are Jews, and hence you can't know who wields the power. The problem is with Israel is that the day war ends, Netanyahu will be trialed in court and he's not escaping prison. It is in his interest to expand the war on multiple fronts, hence Lebanon now. Won't be a surprise if Israel attacks Iran just before the US presidential elections. But they certainly seem to be wanting to draw them into it. By the way, slightly surprising that the news of some major US RW voices being indirectly funded by Russia didn't make waves in India. whatsoever, especially with the Indian right-wing strange leaning towards China. Indian right-wing is just so sweet sometimes. It is true. The strange love for China. Which actually overlaps with left's love for China, but for different reasons.
And there is this made by Rohit Kulkarni, 47 words. Hey Abhinandan, you had a question on why comedians are generally left-leaning. Yes, mostly they are. But there are right-leaning comedians also like Bill Maher, Nicholas DeSanto, Shahak Shapira. In India, I don't know. Here it all feels the same. Only flights, jokes, except few comedians.
Flight
I actually
jokes.
don't... Sorry?
Bill Maher.
I don't think Bill
liberal,
Maher is
no?
right-leaning at all. I mean, I think his position on Israel is a bit over the top and reactionary. But otherwise, I think his stance on liberal values has been quite...
And he's a Democrat, right? He's
a Democrat, and he has some rather bizarre takes on specific issues.
Yeah.
But, I mean, right-leaning is a bit of a stretch.
He's a libertarian, right? So...
well, that also not entirely, because he makes on liberty. He claims to be, fairly influenced by socialist policies as well. But because it's America, the market is so important, even if you consider yourself left of center. And then Abhijit Gaiha says, hey Abhinandan, love your work in the Hafta podcast. You went too far with your remark on the last episode about nerds. They were derogatory in my opinion. This was on a nuisance, I think, or on Hafta.
There's complaints about your language also in the past nuisance.
Yeah, they've been complaints
you
about
have to
language.
rein in.
I did. I don't think I used any bad language in this one. Oh, I did.
But somebody had posted a comment, I think, saying you said the F word about when talking about Mufat and he was watching with his children.
Yeah.
And then
even on nuisance, people said that they watch with their kids.
I will be more careful and mindful of my language, not languages. So that was derogatory. Nerds have built trillion-dollar companies, not to mention so many platforms that you're using for Newslaundry. Would you like being called a humanities loser? I bet you wouldn't. Looking forward to the next episode. Actually, Abhijit, unfortunately, I did science in my +2. I did physics, chemistry, eco-maths, and I did a graduation economics. Not that it matters one way or the other. But I get where you're coming from. Yeah, point taken.
Sarthak Sharma, hello. During the discussion on the Ganesh festival, there were quite a lot of points, historically speaking, that were left out. Only Anand pointed out the real reason and motivation behind Ganesh festival, knowing which will clear Abhinandan's questions on why there's so much public demonstration of religiosity. I'm not writing this to point those out, even though I'm more than happy to, but as a suggestion for Newslaundry as an organization, it'll help you a lot if you have fortnightly features on history, specifically written by a field expert. I myself have written for the Express once and write articles on history at my workplace. So this is a job application, but do consider more feature pieces. I agree. I think there's so much interest also in history that I think we should have
that's
off
true.
and on whenever there's something
Joyojeet is writing more of the history.
Yeah, I think
and it is very interesting.
And also in this time where history is so easily weaponized, it's so easily muddled that I think it'll be good to have people.
Also, I think it's a great time to write history because you can make up so much of it.
Shantanu Sharma, Jayashree is back, along with her familiar biases against America and the West. In Hafta 503, she criticized the New York Times for calling Israel's pager attack eye-catching. However, here's the full context. The expression appeared in the article titled, Israel's pager attack was a tactical success without a strategic goal, analysts say. The exact line reads, although the attack on Tuesday was an eye-catching demonstration of Israel's technological prowess, Israel has not so far sought to capitalize on the confusion it sowed by initiating a decisive blow against Hezbollah and invading Lebanon. The article quoted multiple sources, emphasizing the tactical success of the attack while noting the dissonance between Israeli intelligence's strategic goals and its politicians' short-term thinking. The phrase eye-catching described the attack's ability to grab attention, not praise it. Jayashree's constant claims of bias in the NYT are tiring. Perhaps she should have stayed in the UK.
Okay, so I'll say that I did know the entire context of what they said. Also, I feel like I rein back a lot of my criticism because I feel like sometimes I rant a bit too much. But also, I still stick to what I said because do you think a word like eye-catching, no, even if it's only talking about the attack's ability to grab attention, would you ever say, wow, like September 11th was an eye-catching display?
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't. I mean, there is a very clear sort of delineation in how X events are described and how Y events are described. And I think it is.
And I think even the BBC, and I pointed this out earlier, each time they speak about October 7, they use horrific each and every time after the horrific attack. And it is not consistent with the horrific strikes. It is always as Israel struck, XYZ in response to the horrific strikes. It is always, boss, that's the context for this. I think it's, and in fact, it's on this issue that even Bilma, just the praise, the tone of, oh, so brilliant, the pager attacks was, I think on this issue, he's just lost his,
No, and also, I mean, if you, I remember during the 26/11 attack also, the phrasing for India in NYT, I think, was India's reckoning. You would never use that kind of word if there was an attack in the US.
Yeah, I mean, those double standards
And,
are just...
India is no stranger to whatever violence,
Yeah, see, let's
poverty
be very fair.
struck
Like, of course,
India.
it's not only the New York Times. It is the BBC, it is the Guardian, it is the
Washington
Atlantic,
Post
it's
also,
everyone.
yeah.
Almost all of those. So.
Horrific attack is... There's just been one horrific attack in the last 5 years. All the others are not horrific.
And we would critique this more if you didn't have a loony right wing right now that wants to put everyone in jail.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about Western media and the sort of biases they may have, which can be intelligently put and not what the right wing, kind of.
Insane.
Yeah.
Right. On that note, we will get the recommendations for the rest of the panel, but not before we remind you. Here's a QR code. Please support our journalism that is ad-free and non-sponsored. We are sending a team to the US because we should have at least 2 or 3 series every 2 years, which are world events and not just India. I think that way Indian digital media can also have a slightly bigger profile than it does right now. And that's why we do this. And I hope you can support us on that, especially if you're like a desi overseas, use this QR code, use technology. But let's get the recommendations first. Let's go with Jayashree.
Yeah, I have a few recommendations. So my first is I'd mentioned that chess, I mean, you had mentioned actually chess being a sort of soft power thing in Russia. So this is a pretty good story which gives some context. It's in 52 website. It's called Madras Check by Sibi Arasu. So here's a line from it. It says, chess was a kind of soft power that the Soviet Union exported to countries across the height of the Cold War. The cultural wings of Soviet embassies across the world played a pivotal role in the spread of chess's gospel. And one of these was the Tal Chess Club in Chennai. So it talks about people who are associated with, and then how chess just became this thing, like with Vishwanath Anand and so on. And Tamil Nadu is a fairly big center for chess playing. So it's quite interesting.
But does Madras Check have to do anything with chess?
No, it's just a clever headline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It is quite a clever headline, I think. So then I will recommend this podcast, which is quite old, but which I only heard very recently. It's by Radiolab called The Other Latif. So it's about how a guy called Latif who worked for Radiolab, he always thought he had a very unique name. His name was Latif Nasser. And then he made a discovery one day that he shares the exact same name with a detainee at Guantanamo Bay. And they had a lot of similarities in their life. They were both nerdy, suburban Muslim kids, except that he grew up to work at Radiolab. And the other Latif is, according to the US government, a top explosive expert. He's one of the most important advisors to Osama bin Laden. So this guy goes on this years-long sort of quest to find out who was that man really, what happened to him, and what were the similarities between the two of them, and then where did they sort of diverge. So it's really interesting. It's told very well. So it's called the Other Latif series. And I would recommend one final piece in New Lines magazine, which is, so doctors describe the horrors of Israel's pager attack in Lebanon. Basically, all these doctors, where they were on the day that it happened, because one of the pagers also exploded at a pediatrics clinic.
Yeah.
So one doctor was tending to a 10-day-old baby. She was checking the baby for wounds when a pager went off. And then just the sort of scale and horror of things that they saw. And I think a lot of this is downplayed in clinical descriptions in other media, like to be like, yes, X lost an eye, Y lost an arm. But it doesn't really fully capture exactly what happened in those minutes and seconds, across Beirut. So, it's a New Lines magazine. It's called Doctors Describe the Horror of Israel's Pager Attack in Lebanon.
Crazy.
Raman sir?
2 recommendations. One is our own Basant Kumar, who had won Ramnath Goenka this year for us. His very good story, which is about Haryana, and I think Mr. Chautala must read it. This is based on the data given by Haryana Assembly only, there were 23 cases of sexual
Complaints,
harassment, complaints by the sports persons, and 14 of them were POCSO. So Basant Kumar hits the field. He goes to, I think he investigated 13 cases.
Yeah.
And he has, on the basis of that, he has written this report, which is our paywall report.
Do read it. It's actually a very, very good
Chautala
report.
Sahab, not by any sarkari ads
Yes.
or paid by Congress, paid by subscribers. Imagine that.
I even loved Basant's video on Smart City Faridabad.
Which I recommended
What
last
a
time.
sham. I mean, these smart parks.
Yeah.
Smart parks. And what is so smart about it? कि आप यहाँ पे अपना e-card दिखाइए या e-whatever. And the toilets are like jungles. The whole park, you can't even find place to sit there.
But they must be simultaneous.
And 3
They must
crore.
be data-based parking, no?
No, but 3 crore spent on it.
4.5 crore.
But is
spent
there
on
a
that
pillar
park.
of data-based parking there and there's a non-data-based park?
I think smart cities it really needs to be looked into.
500 crore
So much
spent
money
on
gone.
Faridabad. And what do you have to show today? Just one road that goes to the member of parliament and another road which goes to member of legislative assembly.
यार हमारे लिए इतना
And
बहुत
उसमें
है.
smart क्या है? Like there's literally nothing smart about any of
Nothing.
these cities. Yeah.
Nothing. And the second is, I think this is an old documentary which I saw it last week, is Curry and Cyanide, which is available on Netflix. This is a story of Jolie Joseph.
I heard about this. That Kerala case.
The Kerala case where she killed her family members one after the other. And nobody could realize it, for years. So
Okay.
good, very well made.
All right, Manisha.
So there's a really fun piece in the New Yorker called The Case Against Travel. As somebody who loves to travel, I really enjoy reading it because it's just trashing the idea of loving to travel and how it's become a personality trait among people. And there's a really fun line from a Portuguese writer that it quotes. It's really fun. It says, "I abhor new ways of life and unfamiliar places. The idea of traveling nauseates me. Let those who don't exist travel. Travel is for those who cannot feel. Only extreme poverty of the imagination justifies having to move around to feel." I thought it was just so beautifully
ये तो
put.
bit too much हो गया. But that's a bit.
No, but it's a real.
I just
No, but it's true because people actually travel
No, I
because they want to
agree.
feel.
I mean, sometimes traveling is also performative.
Exactly.
But
Correct.
but to say that anyone who travels is hollow inside or whatever the equivalent is a bit.
No, but
travel-
I like the
travel-
sweeping
no, but the-
generalization.
Yeah,
but
it's
tra-
actually.
So many people are like, "Oh my God, we must live to travel." No,
Yeah.
just shut up. Like,
No,
I don't
travel-
care.
the whole
Travel breaks monotony. Come on.
No, but all those are true. But also the performative travelers are the worst. Like I know one person who was in Italy, and yes, you should also say it's a privilege to be able to do it. She was in Italy and she's like, "Oh my God, I don't know how I found myself here." Yes, you booked your ticket. You know how you found yourself there. Like it's fine. You don't need to perform for us on Instagram.
I think my dislike of travel now is to do with having spent 10 years overdoing it.
highway on my plate.
That's not just that. That's a most well-known show. Everyone keeps saying Highway on a Plate. Dude, I directed 5 travel shows, yeah. That was just one of them. It used to be insane. I hear you. I find it very tedious to travel. I mean, my ideal
I love traveling, but I think this is a great piece.
My ideal vacation would be take off, don't go anywhere. Every morning football, every evening gym, and sleep through the day. That
Oh,
was my
God.
ideal vacation.
That's even bleaker than the travelers. So
Okay. Any other?
And also, on a serious note, please watch our report from Kashmir on the media scene there. It came out on Monday. We took some time to do this, and I think it's an important story. In this election humdrum, very few people have focused on what's happened there to the media. So do watch it. It's also earned us the label of being what? Suspicious actors in the valley who are offering consultancy advice that no one asked for. So please watch that.
So I have 2 recommendations. One is to do with the Israel-Gaza war. I don't think it's a war, but its title is "Were Israel's action in the Gaza war justified? Elon Levy versus Mehdi Hassan." I think Mehdi Hassan wipes the floor with Elon Levy. I think Mehdi Hassan is one of the most fantastic debaters. He comes packed with facts. He really goes for the jugular of his opponent. And Mr. Levy was a spokesperson of the Israeli government, and he is the co-founder of Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. I think what I liked most is Mehdi Hasan saying that I can't even believe we're having this discussion 40,000 deaths later. Is it justified? Is 40,000 deaths justified for the most horrific attack, which it was horrific? So I think it's a fantastic one. I don't see how anyone can be convinced of Israel's actions after watching this, although
I think it's been a while now. I don't think one can justify what Israel has done now, has been doing now for a
very long
time. I think they lost that moral, whatever, high ground 1 month after the attack.
Yeah, and the second is, and the rest is history, has a 5 or 6 part series on Evita, right?
Eva Perez.
Eva Perez. So it is so well presented. It makes you see
Eva Perón.
Perón, right. It makes you see General Perón. He was a general, right? The dictator. So him, and it tells you that story with the most interesting lens and in the most non-sympathetic way. If you don't feel any sympathy for either Perón or Eva. But it is so well presented. So these are my 2 recommendations for the week. And with a reminder that you can mail us at podcast@newslaundry.com to give feedback, and another flashing of the QR code so you can contribute and pay to keep news free. We'd like to thank our producer, Priyali, and our sound recordist, Anil.
We'll be off to the US soon.
Oh yeah, she'll be off to the US, getting us all sorts of reports from there. And
Hershey's chocolate.
And Hershey's chocolate, kya yaar?
I don't know. Every time someone,
Chennai.
every time someone goes to the US, I think of Hershey's.
Why is it a US brand? Is it American?
I don't know. Everyone who ever went to US always.
But now you get everything everywhere, I think. So
yeah, and chocolate of all things. Anyway, thank you, Raman sir.
Thank
you,
you.
Manisha Pande. Thank you, Jayashree.
thank you.
See you guys next week. Enjoy weekend. We leave you with this song.